time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a Thursday morning due edition of the Due Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dibular, of course.
Hello.
You're there, but it's very low.
All right. Let me see. Oh, yeah?
Yeah, no, just talk into it. Go ahead. Say again.
Testing.
Yeah, look, that sounds
good.
That sounds fine.
Testing. Yeah, you know what I just realized? My mic thing is not on.
Oh, all right. Yeah, Russ had a little bit of a mishap.
Oh no, there's something going on. Like it seems like it's the connection on the mic, which I don't know why I have no luck with these freaking mics. I don't get it. It's not like I play football with it between shows.
Right.
It just sits here.
Just gives you a problem. Hey, folks.
Tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen. Pour myself a cup of ambition.
All right. Well, there we go.
All right. How's it now? Testing.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
Cool.
So, folks, thanks for waking up with us this morning. Got a really fun show for you guys today. A lot of news to cover, a lot of stuff to talk about. Good crowd in here for the morning show. 345 over on Rumble, 413 strong in the YouTube chat. That's terrific. So thank you guys all for showing up. We're going to be doing something with Jose Vega tomorrow from 6 to 8. We'll be popping on and reading some poetry. I guess that's going to be on his Declaring Independence YouTube channel. Either that or it'll be a campaign Zoom call. But follow Jose on Twitter for more information.
All right. So I'm really going to break up the meeting, man. I'm going to find like the dirtiest Bukowski poem I can find.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do that.
Yeah, he told me find something.
I crawled into
uplifting.
Bed. Betty's sweet ass was cold and damp.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So that'll be fun. For tomorrow evening if you guys are around. Let's get right started because we have a lot to get to today. This is a really fun story. I love this story because this sort of is a story about another corner of YouTube that apparently functions kind of similarly to ours, even though it's different. So Colin Rugg tweets out, "Flat Earther travels all the way to Antarctica to prove that the Earth is flat, only to find out that it's not. LMAO. Flat Earth YouTuber Jaron Campanella went on a $35,000 trip to prove that there was no 24-hour sun, which of course proves that the Earth is round because at the poles it's 24 hours of sunlight in the South Pole this time of year. Sometimes you're wrong in life, and I thought there was no 24-hour sun. In fact, I was pretty sure of it, and it's a fact. The sun does circle you in the South. So here is their video saying essentially the Earth is in fact round.
Turn it over to the Flat Earthers.
So this is
Who
the tour
would like
guide.
to go first? So obviously you all know Jaron Campanella of Jaronism, one of the most popular Flat Earth YouTube channels.
Not for long.
Not for long.
All right, guys. Sometimes you are wrong in life. And I thought
Fat,
there was
drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
But I respect Will Duffy for being a stand-up guy, at least in the way that he kept saying it was true. I kept saying it wasn't. He said, "Do you want to go? I'll take you." and brought me here, and it's a fact. The sun does circle you in the south. So what does that mean? You guys are gonna have to figure that out yourself. Don't listen to my beliefs or my opinion. It shouldn't matter to you.
Still
but
hedging.
at least you should be able to accept that the sun does exactly what these guys said as far as circles the southern continent. So that's about it. I realize that I'll be called a shill for just saying that. And you know what? If you're a shill for being honest, so be it. I honestly believe
it's like our space. I know I'm going to get called MSNBC for saying that the election wasn't stolen. I know I'm a shill. Come at me. But hey, seems like the earth is round. This is like the Kyle Kalinske of the flat earthers here, being like, yeah, come at me. I know. I'm MSM now. I'm a shill now. You got me. Come on. But he also hedges. He's now what this means, I'm not going to tell you what this means. What it means is the earth is obviously round, but he can't come out and flat out say that because then there goes the channel.
When did big round earth get to you?
Yeah, big
My
ocean.
only question is, do you have to pay federal taxes on the money that the round earthers are paying you?
Right, exactly. How much money are you getting from big ocean to say this? Yes. You're clearly being paid.
I don't understand. Look, with some of the conspiracy theories that float more in our space, you can see how you get there. And particularly given that people have been lied to so much by institutions and governments, the kind of area that is more in our realm, you could at least see it even when it's insane. This, how do you get that? Have you ever flown a plane to another country? Like, how do you so what? You think they're stopping just short of the edge? Like, what?
Why do you think time zones are a thing?
Yeah,
if
how do
the
you
earth
get
were
there?
flat, there'd be no need for a time zone, would there?
Right. There'd just be
right.
Yeah. Well, I guess they would think the sun is here relative to where you are on the flat
Exactly. You'd have to
surface.
redraw everything. Yeah, exactly.
It's just how do you and to have like this has 2.5 million views.
Right. Well,
Like,
you'd have
there
to
are
believe
this
that the
many
sun
people?
spins around the earth. No, if the earth was flat, then in order to justify time zones, you'd have to think the sun orbits around the earth, because the idea is the sun moves across a flat surface. Right. The only reason the time zones are a thing is because the earth is spinning.
What would it do? It would go under.
Right. You'd have to think the
earth,
sun
then come
spins around
back
the earth.
above.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So a little cold water, no pun intended.
Galileo knew.
Hold on this. Exactly. Yeah.
That's why they arrested him.
He's got some more.
if there was no 24-hour sun. I honestly now believe there is. That's it. If you want to call me a shill, so be it. I'll live to see another day, and at least I know that I got to see it. And I just want to say thanks to Will. Through everything, you've been at least kind to me, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the trip. If you guys want to, my whole master plan worked for getting a free trip out here, and to, but no, it's amazing. I can't even tell you. Flying in was the best thing I've ever seen. So, looking around, best thing I've ever seen. So, you know, how could I give him a hard time for bringing me down here? $35,000 trip. It's been incredible. It will continue to be incredible. We've got some tracking mounts swinging around, seeing the sun. What does it mean? You have to figure it out. You know, to me, it means that the AE map no longer works, but that doesn't mean that I'm right. It means that it could work. You'll have to figure out how.
See, this is to save audience.
I struggle with it.
Yeah. Hey, you know,
the
I
other
could
thing
be
is
wrong.
A 24-hour moon.
It just came all the way
When
down.
that happens,
religious faith.
You got another thing we got to worry about. So it seems like the moon does circle here as well. So you start thinking about that as well. It doesn't mean that AE map is over, flat Earth is over. Maybe somebody's got the answer. I don't have that answer right now. So just want to say thanks again. Appreciate it. Thanks, brother.
All right. So what obviously happened here was, you know, he's got a YouTube channel talking about flat eartherism, and you know, one of the round Earth New World Order Jews reached out to him and said, "Hey, I'll fly you down here and prove it. It's a $35,000 trip. I guess I'll take you for free." And he did, and they have it. He's a convert. But I love how the same incentives exist in that space. I know you're going to call me a shill. I know you're going to call me a shill for saying this.
I'm struggling with it. See, he's leaving the door open for his deranged fan base to give him a way to figure that out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nah, man, you were probably in a VR helmet. They probably knocked you out. You weren't even there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Weren't even there. You woke up. It was all VR. They
Yeah.
fooled you.
Yeah, exactly. How do you know the airplane was real?
They have holodeck technology. The round earthers have that.
That's right. What a story. He should bring Darryl Cooper down to the South Pole. They could do a joint podcast there. Yeah. Talk about Winston Churchill and the 24-hour sun cycle.
Well, that was why Winston Churchill declared war, because Hitler was about to reveal the truth about the Earth.
About the flat eartherism. Yeah,
about the flat Earth.
Exactly. It's a hidden motive that not a lot of people talk about. So that was funny. That's a little inside baseball for all you guys. Hope you enjoyed that segment. Hey, you know what else?
No. It is amazing. If you make a statement, a strong statement about a politician, a political figure that has a big following, inevitably you will have a certain number of people who will concoct in their mind the most elaborate conspiracy theories. People, obscure YouTube channels get approached all the time with big sacks of cash to say bad things about Tulsi Gabbard or some shit.
Right. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
That's how the world works. Sure.
Yep. It's kind of an extreme example of that, but yeah, that was a funny one. Hey, you know what else is funny, folks? The Hebe and Goy Show. The Hebe and Goy podcast featuring Dan and Bruce. Dan Richmond is a fan and patron and friend of the show, and he has his own show, which is very funny. Deals with the inconveniences of everyday life in a very charming and funny way. Like we say, it's like Seinfeld without the genocidal undertones. Hebe and Goy. So you can go to hebeandgoy.com. That's Hebe and A-N-D Goy.com to get the audio podcast, or you can search Hebe and Goy into the YouTube channel and take a look at their YouTube channel. It's great. It's a really funny show. They put out a really funny clip, I think it was like a week and a half ago, where the Goy, whose name is Bruce, talks about how he spent all day buying what ended up, I believe, being 3 pairs of used sneakers off of Facebook Marketplace. And he said one of the guys he bought the used sneakers from was a surgeon who must make pretty good money because he works at a hospital, yet he's hawking 12 pairs of sneakers for $120. And he goes to pick it up at the hospital. So he texts the guy, I'm here.
Pay the insurance.
I'm here to pick up the shoes. And the guy says, all right, I'll be out soon. I have a patient who's coding, which apparently coding means dying.
Dying, yeah.
Yeah. So hang on. I'll be out with your sneakers in a few minutes. I just got a patient here who's dying on the table that I got to deal with. And then I'm going to come and try and haggle with you for the shoes. It was a really funny story, and Dan loved that story. And so that's the kind of show it is. It's a great show. You guys will like it. It's very easy listening. It's very entertaining. Same kind of quirky, sarcastic sense of humor that we have. So hebeandgoy.com, or go to YouTube in the search bar and subscribe to their YouTube channel. Yeah, that's funny stuff. It's funny stuff. Because even the Goy is kind of Jewy. The Goy is going around buying used shoes off of Facebook.
Are they both in Florida?
You know, I don't know where the Goy lives. I think so. But I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure, actually. But the other thing, it was funny. The surgeon comes out. He had, I think 10 pairs of shoes that he was trying to get. I forget what the exact figures were. He was trying to get $10 a pair for a dozen shoes or whatever. And then he has all the shoes with him in the car, and he tries to get the Goy to pay him $50 for all the pairs. But he turns him down. He says, no, I can't do that. I only want the one. I think he ended up buying 2. But you had a real chance to get 10 or 12 pairs for $50, but he didn't take it. But yeah, that's a really fun show. So please do check that out.
Well, that's sad. You know, there are all those articles where you have nurses talking about what people's top regrets are at the end of the life. Buying used sneakers online is always up there.
Right. Yeah,
it's always in the top 5 deathbed regrets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So fun stuff. All right, let's go on. Let's do so. All right, so we have another light one. Well, this is the sort of light in a dark way.
We have not revisited this story in a while, but this is ground control to Major Tom. Those poor Boeing astronauts have had their return to our benighted world delayed yet again.
Trip to the space station that was supposed to be 10 days now looks like it could last for 10 months for astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams. The trouble began in June when several safety issues were discovered in the Boeing Starliner that delivered the pair. It was forced to return without the astronauts, and that's when Elon Musk's SpaceX stepped in to get them home, but now they too are running into setbacks. NASA now says the SpaceX Crew 10, with 2 empty seats, will be launching to the space station no earlier than March of 2025.
Boy, oh boy. Wilmore and Sonny could have saved themselves a lot of trouble with one simple phrase. If it's Boeing, I ain't going. But they went, and now they can't get back. The most recent delay in the Crew 10's launch is to give, quote, NASA and SpaceX teams time to complete processing on a new Dragon spacecraft for the mission. The Crew 9, carrying Williams Wilmore, fellow NASA astronaut Nick Hague, and cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov. It's nice that we're still working with the Russians, even as we court nuclear annihilation.
Yeah, exactly.
By tempting them. Can only leave the space station following a handover period with the Crew 10. The handover period, quote, allows Crew 9 to share any lessons learned with the newly arrived crew and support a better transition for ongoing science and maintenance at the complex. NASA did not speculate on how long that handover might take. The Starliner, Boeing's answer to the Crew Dragon, has not much of an answer, has faced major headwinds since it went into development, including a series of technical issues and budget shortfalls. It finally launched, but after arriving at the space station with its crew, multiple helium leaks were discovered in the Starliner's propulsion system, along with a degraded thrust in 5 of its maneuvering jets. A return in late March or April would mean that a trip that was expected to last just over a week for Williams and Wilmore will have stretched to at least 9 months.
Wow.
Quote, fabrication, assembly testing, and final integration of a new spacecraft is a painstaking endeavor that requires great attention to detail, Steve Stitch, manager for NASA's Commercial Crew Program, said in a statement Tuesday about the Crew 10. Quote, we appreciate the hard work by the SpaceX team to expand the Dragon fleet in support of our missions and the flexibility of the station program and expedition crews as we work together to complete the new capsule's readiness for flight. So yeah, they have to send up a whole new ship to get them back. Apparently they have not outright canceled Boeing's contract at this point. But if Vivek and Elon have anything to say about it, I'll be surprised if they continue. If they have that kind of influence in their unofficial capacity, I'd be surprised if the first thing they do isn't to cancel the Boeing contract.
You would think so. Delay after delay after delay. Now 10 months. Supposed to be 10 days. Now it's 10. Yeah. Now 10 months in outer space. And I was asking, like, do they have enough food up there? And I guess they do. I guess they plan for these.
It's a space station, so they lay in food. Right, they lay in food for emergencies.
Right,
they have some of those Rumble MRE kits up there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Rumble ships up. they ship to the space station. There you go. Yeah, no, I mean it's just a story that just gets more and more bizarre as you go.
Those poor people.
Yeah.
When I heard it, the first thing that occurred to me was just they must really run you through a lot of batteries of psychological tests before they let you go up there.
Right.
Because these have got to be 2 of the most stable people from Earth, not on Earth, but from Earth.
Yeah.
Like imagine you expect to be there for a little over a week, and every time you think you're going back, sorry, there's another delay to 10 months.
10
in this
months.
Little confined space.
Yeah. I mean, that could break a person. I mean, it's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. And we'll see if there's another setback. I mean, they kept saying, oh yeah, it'll be, they it's not like they gave this date months ago. They've been saying, yeah, we're almost ready, almost ready, almost ready. Oh, we have another delay. Oh, we don't know if this is safe to go up there. Oh, we're going to get Elon to go up there and save you. Maybe Elon's been too busy with the Trump campaign. Maybe he should kind of make this a priority now that the election's over. He was very busy last night, that's for sure.
I mean, what he really should have done is a Reagan-Iran thing where he rescued them right when Trump won.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like the Iran hostage thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. That would have been a good move. All right, we got JM. Thanks for the $2 over there on YouTube, but thank you for the super chat, my friend. RB Ham says first time watching a Thursday morning show live. Loading lumber on my trailer right now in Whitecourt, Alberta. It's not even light out yet. LOL. GiveSendGo.com/RB Ham. Yeah, hit up RB Ham on GiveSendGo if you can, folks. He is really having the book thrown at him, as they say. And you can watch the segment that he did on the Jimmy Dore show last week, which was great. That was awesome. Thank you, RB. Noah, do you guys have any tips or tricks to get rid of tonsil stones? It's driving me up a freaking wall. Tonsil stones? I never even heard of a tonsil stone.
Yeah, what is that?
I never had my tonsils out. I still have my tonsils. I don't even know really what your tonsils are.
I had mine out.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I had quite a few surgeries as a lad.
Interesting.
I got, I've got a plastic plate in this eye because when I was 9, I got in a fist fight with a 13-year-old, and it broke the bone in my orbital floor.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so you've had some shit done. Yeah, no, I never had my tonsils out, so I don't know what that's like. But yeah, I'm not sure how to do anything about that. But good luck with that, Noah. Appreciate that. All right, let's move on. We got AOC versus Nancy Pelosi. Oh yeah, some more drama today.
Tales from the crypt.
Yep, the old crypt keeper is at it again. Pelosi will not let that gesture of insubordination that AOC arrived with, she won't let it go. She protested in her office. She's never going to forgive that. This is the thing with selling out to the party establishment. They'll never forgive you. You have to have been their creature from the beginning. Even having your head on a spike is not enough. Look at Elizabeth Warren. They never gave her anything. They gave her nothing for shivving Bernie, for helping to ensure that there's no way he could become the nominee. She was this. We always talk about Obama and the Monday Night Massacre. We never talk about how they kept Warren in as the second prong of that plan.
Yes,
they didn't give her shit. They didn't give her shit. They gave her nothing. So Pelosi once again cock-blocked AOC from getting a position, not for the first time. Now, the New Republic article here, it's a little op-edy, but it gets into the money involved in a way no other article did. Fresh off hip replacement surgery, Nancy Pelosi, 84, secured another victory. House Democrats on Tuesday afternoon decided that 74-year-old Jerry Connolly, who announced his throat cancer diagnosis in November, I think that's wrong. I think it's esophageal cancer, which is worse.
Yeah.
Because my best friend died of that. And so I know a fair amount about it. That is almost certainly a death sentence. Throat cancer is usually survivable. Esophageal cancer almost never is. And it's very fast.
He should go see Dr. Shiva about that. Dr. Shiva will say, you know what a leading cause of esophageal cancer is? The leading cause of esophageal cancer is sucking too much Zionist cock.
Yeah.
I think that's your problem. I think that's the problem. You've been sucking too much of that Zionist cock.
No matter what they tell you, it's not kosher.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
He will serve as ranking member on the House Oversight Committee, besting 35-year-old Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in a closed-door caucus vote. Quote, Jerry's a young 74, cancer notwithstanding. You cannot make that up. Said Virginia Democrat Don Baer, a Connolly ally.
I wonder how old that guy is.
Aside from the cancer and being a septuagenarian, he's spry as a spring chicken. Pelosi had opposed the 35-year-old's run for the role, quote, approaching colleagues, urging them to back Connolly over Ocasio-Cortez, Axios reported last week. Connolly will join fellow septuagenarians in top committee spots next year. Richard Neal, 75, will lead Democrats on Ways and Means, while Frank Pallone, 73, will be the party's top representative on Energy and Commerce. 86-year-old Maxine Waters will be the ranking member on the Financial Services Committee, and Rose DeLauro, 81, will helm the Democrats' presence in appropriations. The elderly are not too old to govern, but they may, in this case, be too attuned to a failed way of doing things. The job of the Oversight Committee, for instance, is to attached.
Attuned was good. That's good guess.
Yeah, attuned worked. It worked. For instance, is to, as we have said many times, if you're looking for accuracy, go elsewhere.
It was wrong, but it worked.
It worked. We're good. We're more improvisational than accurate.
Right.
Is to, quote, ensure the efficiency, effectiveness, and accountability of the federal government and all its agencies, including the Pentagon. Connolly, this past cycle, accepted $118,500 from political action committees linked to the defense sector. So there's an angle nobody's getting into. Everyone's getting into the seniority, which is certainly an element, but the seniority is also connected to the grift. They've been there long enough to be getting this kind of money from these industries that they're supposed to be regulating.
They go hand in hand. All that matters to the Democratic Party is seniority because it's all just a giant gig flow.
Right.
So if you've put in your time at the entry level and then at the mid level, these high level jobs are owed to you, whether you are 74 with esophageal cancer or not. That's the whole point. The seniority and the grift go hand in hand. After the lesson of this election, wasn't one of the main lessons of this election that the old dying guy stuck around too long and that you got to cycle them out so you get some young blood in there? Was that not the main lesson of the campaign? Apparently not.
Yeah, they don't give a shit. You know, I just finished my Mad Men binge watching, so this is a metaphor that's on my mind. You know, they really got into how, at least in that era, and this element is probably still true, how the advertising industry worked. And if you were an account person, it was your job to handle Revlon, to handle Coca-Cola. So when their executives come into town, you're the one who entertains them. You hold their hand. You're the one who sends flowers for their birthday. You have the relationship. So it's your account. And very often, if these account people would move to another agency, they'd bring those accounts with them. That was part of what they could offer if they wanted to change agencies. Well, I'll bring my clients with me. That's what it is. These are their accounts. Right. Connolly has these accounts with these defense contractors that he brings with him. Now, AOC, we on the left consider her an enormous disappointment, but she still has not started funding her campaigns with PAC money. That's what this is really about. If AOC were awash in defense contractor money, I think there's a decent chance, seniority aside, they would say, okay, yeah, it'll be good to have a young face on the same grift. But because she has not fully embraced that grift, I think that's a deciding factor in why they would go this far.
You're muted now. Something happened. Stand by. What's he waiting for? Can't hear you. You got to unmute the microphone. On StreamYard, try unmuting it.
Okay, so you got me
Yeah, there
now,
you go.
right?
Yeah.
There's something going on with the connection. And I think at this point, because I swapped out the wire and I swapped out the ports, it's the mic. It's the jack in the mic. Like all right, I'm going to move it a little bit. Hopefully it won't cut out again. All right, there we go. All right, so to get back to that, Connolly this past cycle accepted $118,500 from political action committees linked to the defense sector. Ways and Means is the House's top tax writing committee with jurisdiction over the revenue-related aspects of Social Security and Medicare, among other programs. Neal is a top recipient of donations from the insurance industry, having accepted $412,000 from insurance industry PACs during the 2024 campaign cycle, plus generous six-figure donations from HMOs and pharmaceutical companies. Frank Pallone has gotten more than $1 million from electric utilities since joining Congress in 1998. We're going to be doing the Tucker Jeffrey Sachs interview a little later. And one of the most interesting things he says in that interview is our government comes very cheap because you don't have to buy off everyone in the government as a lobbyist. You just have to buy off a few key people on one or two key committees, and that's it. You own the government. Right. That's what this is. In other democracies, the leaderships of parties that have endured humiliating defeats like the one Democrats saw in November, or even just regular defeats, resign. Wow, wouldn't that be nice? That kicks off a process by which members determine a new, ideally more successful direction represented by different people. But the Democratic Party isn't really a party of the sort that exists in other democracies, with memberships and official constituencies like unions who have some say over how it's governed. Members mostly make decisions based on their own interests rather than to drive some shared democratically decided agenda forward. Pelosi and the old guard's continued opposition to younger talent seems breathtakingly counterproductive in the face of the Democratic Party's numerous challenges right now. Simultaneously, the House's resistance to Trump and the GOP in the House will be led by people of all ages who don't seem particularly interested in that project, despite having spent the entire election cycle warning that Trump's Republican Party represents a second coming of fascism. If incoming House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries really believes that, then why is he advertising his willingness to work with the GOP? Why are so many other Democrats, for that matter, trying to make nice with Trump acolyte Elon Musk? Because they know where their bread is buttered. They see which way the wind is blowing. And yes, they never meant any of that. Trump is a threat to democracy. They showed that the first time. They voted to expand Trump's spying powers at the same exact time that they were claiming he was a Russian agent.
A Russian agent, yeah, exactly.
They never believed any of it. It's all part of the grift. But the Groundhog Day of it all adds a special layer of dread. Once again, Pelosi and AOC are fighting a proxy battle over the future of the Democratic Party. In 2020, Pelosi squashed AOC's bid to join Energy and Commerce over a perceived lack of loyalty. Now Pelosi has gotten her way again. If the Democrats have a future, its inspiration will come from outside the bounds of its own fiefdoms and sclerotic internal processes. It will come, for example, from unions that cultivate leaders who can genuinely speak to working class voters. It will come from social movements that build momentum for populist ideas that haven't been poll tested into bland, business-friendly mush. At the very least, those things can outlive Pelosi and the old guard. Ideally, it can build an electoral force that aspires to be more than meaningless loyalties and bigger checks from donors. Here, here. I included that because often we get accused of being black-pilled. We're not black-pilled. That's what we believe.
Well, I believe in all of that except for the top part, except for the idea that that's going to happen inside the Democratic Party. Like that's where
no, it says it won't.
well, they say if the Democrats have a future, its inspiration will come from outside the bounds, right? So,
Right.
I mean, hate to nitpick there, but I don't think that the Democrats are salvageable in that respect for that reason. And at this point, the AOC brand and the Nancy Pelosi brand, unfortunately, are equally toxic. I mean, their favorability numbers are about the same.
Well,
And the
that's what
reason they're
this
about
article
the same-
misses.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
every article I read that was sympathetic to AOC missed how much AOC has lost her own support base.
Her own support base, and also, by supporting Biden and really making, identity politics issues the wedge between her and the rest of the party as opposed to economic issues. She is not a populist figure either.
Right. She's one of those who's screaming about Tulsi being a Russian agent.
Right.
And we have our issues with Tulsi, but that is clearly a smear going back to Hillary Clinton.
Right. So she's not any more toxic than Nancy Pelosi. Like, I don't think her being in that spot would really do the Democrats any more favors than this guy. Not really. Like, this is why the party is just totally hopeless.
I think it would with a certain kind of younger voter, with a certain kind of younger lib and lib adjacent voter. I think it would. The people who jumped up and down, oh my God, I was gonna vote Jill Stein, but Tim Walz hugs pigs and puts tampons in boys' bathroom. Democrats back on the menu, baby. Those people would react that way to AOC getting that position.
But those people will vote Democrat every time anyway. I don't see how it grows your base. I don't see really what it would have done. I mean, it's a scummy thing to do, obviously, on Nancy Pelosi's part. And you might say the optics are slightly better than having an old dying man in there, because that, just see what the Connolly thing exposes is that all the Democrats care about is moving up the ladder. It's all just careerism. So that's what makes that especially bad.
Sure.
AOC being in there, is that going to help the party's brand? I don't think so.
I think in the end, somebody who has millions of followers on social media who do believe in her is better for you electorally than getting a dying old man.
Well, I guess anything's better than a dying guy.
Anything's better than that, right? Now, criticism of this came from a surprising quarter. Chris Hayes did a lengthy monologue about how these old people need to retire and didn't we learn anything from Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This tells you what's going on among the libs, who tend to be just as disciplined and in lockstep as the establishment Republicans. You always hear, oh, the Democrats, this the circular firing squad. Not really. Not really. You have the same exact dynamic you have with the Republicans. You got the establishment people who are in lockstep, and then you got the populists taking shots at the establishment. It's the same thing. But now this election was so devastating that you are seeing establishment on establishment violence like this.
Connolly won that vote today. And he did so thanks in part to former Speaker Nancy Pelosi whipping votes for him. Now, again, to her credit, enormous credit, Pelosi did choose to step aside and relinquish her job as House Minority Leader to a new generation of leadership. She also played an enormous role in the successful effort to push Joe Biden to step aside this summer, which was very hard to do, and I think the right thing to do. And now Pelosi whipped votes to make sure that Connolly got the oversight job over the young star in the party, even as the 84-year-old Pelosi is recovering from hip surgery after suffering a fall. It feels like a moment of genuine madness.
So, yeah, he still butters her up, but this is a remarkable thing to be saying about Nancy Pelosi, who you get the sense that all of these people on MSNBC, like Suicide Squad, have a tiny bomb in their brainstem, and she has the button that she can push at any moment if they say anything negative about her. So you had some reactions around the internet. Faiz Shakir, the loss isn't AOC's, it's a loss for House Dems, who could have had a more compelling and interesting and dynamic approach to the next few years, which, yes, we're not AOC fans, but it certainly would have been better than a dying old man.
Well, this guy's prognosis being what it is, they'll get a second bite at the apple sooner than later, odds are.
Probably.
Right? They're going to have to replace this guy soon.
Sure. Didn't AOC call Pelosi Mama Bear? Little meme there. What did AOC get for sucking up to Genocide Joe and Boss Pelosi? Absolutely nothing, from the account Empire of Lies. And Brianna with a very timely comment here. Right on time with this one.
Yep.
Following AOC's loss, will any of the inside strategy leftists acknowledge they were wrong all these years and that I and the force the vote adversarial left were right? And another one she dropped here. If I were AOC and I sold my soul to help a genocider win, she lost anyway, and then the party establishment blamed my politics for her loss, I simply would not continue to cape for Democrats. And she was commenting on a little CNBC clip where you can imagine their take on the election outcome. Well, the Democrats just moved too far left. Or are they going to become the party of AOC, or are they going to come back to good sense? All that bullshit.
Right.
Now I can tell Brianna, and I'm sure she probably knows this. AOC is a careerist, and this is not going to faze her. I know her tweet after this was something to the effect of, sorry, guys, I gave it my best, and we'll keep plugging at it, and she will. And in the end, yeah, she probably will eventually succeed because the Pelosi's are going to die.
Right.
She does have a big social media following, and she's the best they've got. She's bent the knee enough that they can feel assured that she's their creature, apparently as part of her lobbying for this position in their closed door audition. She promised not to primary any more Democrats.
Yep.
So she's going to continue to bend to their will. And yes, eventually she will be elevated within the party, I think. I don't think she's out of the running forever like Warren is. They're like, she's old anyway.
Yeah, I mean, when AOC is 74 and dying of cancer, they'll throw her a bone.
They'll give her a committee position. Yes,
exactly. Yes, just got to stick it out. Got to stick it out,
and she
don't
will.
Get discouraged. She will. She'll be there. Yep. Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing about being a celebrity candidate is it becomes very difficult. Like, when will AOC ever lose a primary or lose that district? Like, she'll be in Congress as long as she wants
Forever.
to. The only time she'll leave is if she aspires to higher office and has to give the seat up. Right. Other than that, she's pretty much set for life there. All right. Hillary Hinton says, good morning, ladies. Question: if you guys could have a drink with any dead person, who would it be? Mine is Philip K. Dick.
It's a good question.
That's an interesting one.
Maybe. Maybe Mark Twain.
Oh yeah, Mark Twain. That's a good one.
That'd be an interesting guy to hang with.
Yeah, actually, Mark Twain is a really good one. I didn't even think of that, but that is probably a good one. Mark Twain, Oscar Wilde would be fun. Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, if you're talking about the whole course of human history, Aristotle. Back to the classical world.
Probably fun. I didn't realize it had to be a dead person.
Well, Socrates would probably be more fun.
Yeah, there you go.
It was a party animal from all accounts.
I was gonna say, I didn't realize that the stipulation there was dead person. I was gonna say George W. Bush because he was elected president based on the fact that people wanted to have a beer with him, and he was such a horrible president that you figure he must be really fun to have a beer with if that's why he won. Yeah, it certainly wasn't his record.
But he's not dead yet.
Right, but he's not dead yet. Right. So, but yeah, that would be an answer of mine as well. Conor McGregor was not my friend. $4.99, like Gilligan's Island, a 3-hour tour. Yes, a 3-hour tour of Antarctica. Yes, thank you. Mark Pugliese, thanks for the $10 over on YouTube. Do you remember the Apollo disaster that was due to corporate pressure that failed to address O-ring problem? NASA equals need another 7 astronauts. Joke
Are you
at the
talking
time.
about the Challenger? Talking about the Challenger?
Are you talking about that, or are you talking about the failed the moon orbit?
You're talking about Apollo 13?
Yeah, 13. Yeah, it could be that one too. Lenore, term limits for $1.99. Thank you, Lenore. Appreciate that very much. Alrighty, we are going to move on now to a big piece. All right, folks, this is a big segment. This was all the news yesterday. Hold on, let me get my logo back up here. All right, folks. So
this is Keaton's magnum opus.
Yes. This is my omnibus bill of a segment here. So this was all the news yesterday that the spending bill that Mike Johnson was trying to get passed through the House hit a hiccup. So first, we're going to find out what's in this screwy spending bill here. Let's see how my tax dollars are being spent. I mean your tax dollars. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Not my tax dollars. I'm only worth $400 billion, but I'm really in this for you. I'm really worried about them wasting your money, not mine. I care about you very much. And I can say that, and this country is so propagandized that people take me at face value when I express these opinions as if I'm not simply advocating for my own self-interest. That's how stupid this country is. That's how powerful capitalist propaganda has gotten, that the richest man in the history of the world can advocate for less taxation, and people think I'm advocating in actual politics as opposed to just advocating my own interests. Funny how that works. What a country. God bless
funny.
America.
It's funny how I took tens of millions of dollars in subsidies and tax breaks from the state of California to build my company, and people applaud me as a hero when I leave the state because they passed a gender bill that I didn't like.
And then I want to pull up the ladder in back of me so no one else gets that same advantage by saying we have to cut government spending.
Yes.
Inside a huge spending deal, disaster money, a football stadium, and more. The stopgap spending bill congressional leaders agreed on this week began as a simple funding measure to keep government funds flowing past a Friday night deadline and into early next year, long after House Republicans elect a speaker and President-elect Donald J. Trump is sworn in. But by that time, it was rolled out to lawmakers on Tuesday night. It had transformed into a true Christmas tree of a bill, adorned with all manner of unrelated policy measures in a kind of year-end catch-all that Republicans have long derided. It's a 1,547-page behemoth of a package with provisions including foreign investment restrictions, new health care policies, and a stadium site for the Washington Commanders. 1,547 pages is quite long. I don't think Atlas Shrugged is even that long. That's a long book, but it's not that long. The package was on life support on Wednesday night, though, as GOP lawmakers balked at its details, a backlash further fueled by a condemnation by President-elect Donald Trump, who called it full of Democrat giveaways and his close ally, Elon Musk. Here are some of the provisions that made it into the bill. Disaster rate.
I'm just going to point out, I know we just want to keep this rolling. I am sure that the National Defense Authorization Act is full of pork.
Well, we're going to get to that. Don't worry.
They let that sail through.
Yep. Indeed, they did. Disaster aid. So here's what's in the bill. One of the biggest chunks of funds, and one of the more politically popular, is the aid portion of the legislation, which provides $100 billion for communities ravaged by Hurricanes Milton and Helene and other disasters. Included in that money is $21 billion to help farmers whose crops were ravaged by natural disasters. The bill also provides full funding for the reconstruction of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore that collapsed back in March. Payments to farmers. Lawmakers set aside $10 billion in direct economic assistance available to any farmer who applied for a federal agricultural funding program, such as crop insurance, subsidies, or disaster assistance in 2024. The aid would be distributed based on how many acres of eligible crops they grow. Proponents argued it was necessary in part because Republicans and Democrats had failed to reach agreement on a new farm bill, leaving subsidy payments at a level set 6 years ago. That before RFK comes in and cracks down on the high fructose corn syrup, then they're really going to need those subsidies because they're going to have a lot of extra inventory lying around that they can't move. Okay, so here's a less popular one, obviously, a pay raise for lawmakers. It has been more than a decade since members of Congress have gotten a cost of living increase in their salaries. In a legislative sleight of hand reported earlier by Bloomberg government, the spending bill's drafters omitted that provision this time, positioning themselves for a raise of 3.8%, or about $6,600 for most members whose current salary is $174,000. I should have put the ... between those paragraphs there. My error. I skipped a little bit. we're doing a concise version of this article. Restrictions on investment in Chinese technology companies. The bill would broaden the scope of restrictions for President Biden imposed last year on American investment in key Chinese technology industries, expanding the list of prohibited technologies to include many that could be used in integrated circuits for military intelligence or mass surveillance purposes. Childcare. Two of the top Democratic appropriators, Senator Patty Murray of Washington and Representative Rosa DeLauro of Connecticut, have worked to shoehorn additional money for child care and early education programs into virtually every major spending bill that Congress considers. Tucked into this legislation is $250 million in emergency spending to increase access to child care for working families, and another $250 million for renovations to child care facilities damaged by natural disasters and temporary child care services in affected areas. So, this was the Fox News morning show. Speaker Johnson responded to Elon and Vivek's criticisms of the spending bill. So before Elon went on his viral tweet storm, Mike Johnson made it known that he had in fact, I should say, been in conversation with Team Doge the night before this all went down.
We have to fund those. We have to fund FEMA. We have to fund our farmers.
Right. And Mr. Speaker, it's not just so you've got a bunch of Republicans who are angry at you. They don't like this. And just in a couple of weeks, you're going to stand once again to run for Speaker of the House. And you don't need a bunch of Democrats mad at you. But you know, and this is breaking news you do not know. You know who also does not like this? Elon Musk, the world's richest man, just tweeted, this bill should not pass. The only way you're going to be able to pass it now, Mr. Speaker, is with Democrats. If you could, what's your message to Elon Musk?
Well, I was communicating with Elon last night. Elon and Vivek and I are on a text chain together. And I was explaining to them the background of this. And Vivek and I talked last night about almost midnight. And he said, look, I get it. He said, we understand you're in an impossible position. Everybody knows that. Remember, guys, we still have just a razor-thin margin of Republicans. So any bill has to have Democrat votes. They understand the situation. They said, it's not directed to you, Mr. Speaker, but we don't like the spending. I said, guess what, fellas? I don't either. We got to get this done because here's the key. By doing this, we are clearing the decks, and we are setting up for Trump to come in roaring back with the America First agenda. That's what we're going to run with gusto beginning January 3rd when we start the new Congress, when Republicans, again, are in control. And all of our fiscal conservative friends, I'm one of them, will be able to finally do the things that we've been wanting to do for the last couple of years. Right now, Democrats still control the pens, and that's the problem. So we got to get this thing done so we don't have the shutdown, so we get the short-term funding measure, and we get to March where we can put our fingerprints on the spending. That's when the big changes start, and we can't wait to get there.
Right.
So he's basically saying, look, Democrats still have the Senate, and so we have to play ball until the next Congress is seated, and then we can basically slash and burn everything that we want to. Elon, not satisfied with that, however, so here it comes. This bill should not pass. That's the tweet that they are referring to that was at 4:15 a.m.
Cheeky Lord of the Rings reference.
There you go, yeah. That was at 4:15 a.m. that morning, so that was before the Fox News morning show. But he was not done. Ever seen a bigger piece of pork? This bill should not pass. Again, 12:56. Make sure your elected representatives know how you feel about this gigantic spending bill. Any member of the House or Senate who votes for this outrageous spending bill deserves to be voted out in 2 years, which is interpreted as a coded threat to primary anyone who votes for this bill. This criminal bill must not pass at 1:30. Over and over again. The bill should fail, says Vivek. Yes, says Elon. Please call your elected representatives right away to tell them how you feel. They're trying to get this passed today while no one is paying attention. Well, they are now. This bill is terrible. This bill is criminal. Thank you. Randy Ogle says, I'm a no. So when Congress people come out against it, he comes out to thank them. Absolutely. This bill should not pass. Quote tweeting Jim Jordan, who says he's going to vote no. A new bill that isn't an insane crime against the American people should be done in 33 days, basically advocating for nothing to pass until Trump is elected. Stop the steal of your tax dollars. Now he tweets out a Vivek video. Call your elected representatives today to stop the steal of your tax dollars. Here's Vivek.
Pass a bill that blows away your taxpayer money, but they made it over 1,500 pages long so you wouldn't read it. I did you a favor. I read it for you. It's supposed to be about keeping government operations open and providing disaster relief aid to hurricane victims, which I'm sympathetic to. But if you read the bill carefully, it contains pay raises for members of Congress, and I'm not making this up, an expansion of their federal health benefits. It contains all kinds of special interests and pork funding, including opening up a new stadium in Washington, D.C. It renews the Global Engagement Center, which is a key node of the censorship industrial complex. And the worst part is, they didn't want you to know about any of it, and that's why they made this a last-minute jam job. The reason I'm co-heading DOGE is I think we need outsiders to bring actual accountability to Washington, D.C. So feel free to call your congressman and let him know how you feel about it.
All right. There's from Vivek. No bills should be passed Congress until January 20th when at real Donald Trump takes office. None. Zero. So he's not even calling for a standalone emergency relief bill there. Now, keep in mind, it's December 19th. A month from now would be January 20th. The soonest they could get that approved at that point would be the 21st or the 22nd. You already got people sleeping out in tents in North Carolina because it's freezing out there. And FEMA's saying they're out of money. And we need more money to help get those people taken care of. But he says, no, nothing. Nothing until Trump takes office. So he now, quote, tweets a quote of him on the campaign trail, let the people, meaning me, keep a lot more of their hard-earned money. So here's Elon making his no tax pitch on the campaign trail.
Taxed on what you own, you get taxed on what you buy, and you get taxed on what you own. Taxes, taxes, taxes. You know, and then what does it get spent on? A bunch of the stuff it gets spent on you don't even agree with. So that's why we need to reduce the size of government and just spend less money and let the people keep a lot more of their hard-earned money. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Like me, especially. $400 worth.
And I just want to point out, Elon got $3.2 billion in direct and indirect subsidies from the state of California.
Yep.
So when he's talking about outrageous spending of the government, he never mentions getting rid of those kinds of subsidies. He fled California, and hey, I'm not saying California is well governed or well run, but he certainly personally benefited from part of their tax and spend scheme. A dimension of it he doesn't talk about is California subsidizes the tech industry in a way that very few states do. That's why you have all these startups. Their university system is set up to help students patent their ideas. Most universities own your IP if you develop it at the university. California has that innovation, and it's really benefited them because it attracts a lot of talent to the state. That's part of their government policy, part of their spending. And Elon Musk personally built his company partly on those subsidies and that support. Is he going to go after that? Is he going to get rid of that?
Well, yeah, that is a good point. And also, look, the specifics of the spending bill are almost a red herring here. Like I said, this happens every year where, there's pork loaded into these bills. And of course, there's stuff in there that I don't like, specifically the pay raise for congresspeople at such a time. But a speech like this, where the richest person in the history of the world is coming up and saying, we really have to cut spending and let you keep more of your money. This is like a turkey getting on a microphone and saying, Thanksgiving is really a stupid holiday. It's really a waste of time. I think we should cancel it this year. Like, it's so obvious, the self-interest. It's hidden in plain sight. How does anybody take this as serious political commentary or serious political engagement?
Well, because this is where it's complicated. I point out how much he has benefited from government largesse as pointing out the hypocrisy that you're identifying. At the same time, that doesn't mean they're wrong. This is something that's always talked about.
But what I'm saying
government
is
spending is pork and it's waste and it's kickbacks, legalized bribery. Yeah, is it going to be a rather satisfying spectacle? if they go in there and gut these bills, sure. But what's going to go with it? Because you mentioned in that the child care.
The child care, of course.
Do we want that to go?
Right.
Like, yeah, we don't want to see Congress get a raise.
Right.
But do you not want to help people get child care?
Well,
So, yes.
Yes.
It's complicated.
So Donald Trump added to the conversation here a statement from President Donald J. Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance. The most foolish and inept thing ever done by congressional Republicans was allowing our country to hit the debt ceiling in 2025. It was a mistake and is now something that must be addressed. Meanwhile, Congress is considering a spending bill that would give sweetheart provisions for government censors and for Liz Cheney. The bill would make it easier to hide the records of the corrupt January 6th committee, which accomplished nothing for the American people and hid security failures that happened that day. This bill would also give Congress a pay increase while many Americans are struggling this Christmas. Republicans must get smart and tough. If Democrats threaten to shut down the government unless we give them everything they want, call their bluff. It is Schumer and Biden who are holding up aid to our farmers and disaster relief. This chaos would not be happening if we had a real president. We will in 32 days. So now you have Musk and Trump both leaning pretty hard on congressional Republicans to pull the plug on this deal. And by yesterday evening, it was pretty apparent that this was going to fall apart. So Nick Sorter breaking, Elon posting on X threatening to fund primary opponents of Republicans who voted for the spending bill, effectively killed it per Fox. So here is their report from later on in the evening.
Now, in the past 30 or 40 minutes here, that they might try to pull this interim spending bill off the floor and maybe just go with a clean bill. Unclear what that means for disaster assistance. Here's what happened. A post on X by Elon Musk sent shockwaves through the Capitol. House Republicans were trying to see if they have enough votes to pass the spending bill in the next hour or two. Musk posted that anyone who votes yes should lose their office in 2 years, and lawmakers are scrambling.
Tweets from Musk and others, has that complicated this?
Well, I mean, I think that there's always a lot of interest in what's happening up here, and
this is more than interest. They're telling people if they vote yes, they should be voted out.
The social media world is a part of our politics, and I think members have to expect that. There will be a lot of hard votes in the next couple of years.
A member of the House Republican leadership told Fox that Musk is not helping. The lawmaker added that Musk has bigger fish to fry than picking a fight with House Republicans. One source said the bill is now bleeding support from the GOP. When asked how many Democrats the GOP needs to pass the bill, a senior aide replied, quote, a lot. Lawmakers who had hurricanes devastate their districts are torn.
The fact is that, look, this is a sandwich. I don't know how else to say that. We're being forced into this position. They could have done a standalone. They did this because they knew that it would put members in this position to support it. We're damned if we do. We're damned if we don't.
Now,
that's
the bill
Anna
has
Paulina. She represents one of the districts affected by Hurricane Milton. So that's why she was a yes. And now she's got to deal with this.
About $100 billion in disaster relief, nearly $30 billion to restock FEMA's coffers, and there are lots of health care provisions. Jamming everything together in one bill means some Republicans will not support Mike Johnson for Speaker in January.
Have any other of your colleagues said that they're not voting for Johnson? Expressed?
Yeah, I've talked to a few, who don't seem like they're going to vote for him. You have to ask them. I'm not going to betray anybody's position.
Will you just vote president, or will you vote someone else's?
I'll vote for somebody else.
Now, Johnson can only lose one vote and still win the Speaker's race on January 3rd. Some Republicans ask how things are different with a spending bill like this under Johnson than former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. The funding deadline is Friday night. Neil?
There you go. So, looking not good, believe me, not good for this bill. Jeff Stein tweets out, seems like total surrender to Musk and Ramaswamy here. Just a very clear signal, even before Trump takes office, that if any Republicans try to stand in their way, they will get rolled. Bill Ackman tweets out, people have expressed skepticism about how Doge can be effective without any formal authority. I think today's events around the spending bill provide a roadmap for rapid Doge progress. There are 3 steps to successful Doge execution. Step 1, transparency. Vivek Ramaswamy read the bill and summarized the contents on X. Step 2, the people speak. I love this one. The people, including Elon Musk, expressed their disgust with the bill, calling out particularly egregious waste for color on the contents. And step 3, the Congress reacts, faced with a spending bill that the people don't like with the risks of being primaried for supporting a bill filled with pork and other waste. The bill fails to garner needed support to pass. With its first test case, Doge shows how it's done. As Doge identifies waste or bad regulations, it just needs to follow the 3 steps. Power to the people, says Bill Ackman. Jennifer Jacobs reports now Elon Musk is at the table with Trump and who else? Jeff Bezos. So what's the pattern here? Elon Musk, richest man ever, billionaire hundreds of times over. Vivek Ramaswamy, billionaire. Bill Ackman, who we just heard from, billionaire. Jeff Bezos, billionaire. Donald Trump, billionaire. Elon Musk at the table with Trump and Jeff Bezos for dinner at Mar-a-Lago per sources. So here is Trump showing up.
Although I have to say, if you look at that McFarlane tweet, that's exactly the kind of thing that could get Elon Musk banished from Trump world.
What's
President Musk.
Oh, yeah.
Vice President Trump.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that puts a bug up his ass.
Trump showing up for dinner. He's wearing the yellow tie a lot now. Maybe that was his olive branch to the Libertarian Party. He'll start wearing a yellow tie instead of a red tie.
Maybe.
Right?
Maybe.
I'm not going to staff any of your people, but I'll wear a yellow tie. So, ALX, some video evidence here. Jeff Bezos spotted arriving for dinner with President-elect Donald Trump and Melania at Mar-a-Lago. Here they are. There was no sound on this video. Not sure why, but there he is. There's the man himself. The people are back, folks. The people are
how
back.
much she costs.
Yeah, the people are back in charge, as you know. So these are some comments. Okay, so this is where the MAGA faithful are so much the mirror image of the libs. This is why I said this throughout the campaign. They become just like the libs. What do the libs love? They love feeling like they're at the table, like they're on the Morning Joe set. MAGA, they so want to feel like they're at Mar-a-Lago with Bezos and Musk, that they're insiders. He's going to strong-arm Bezos into taking over the post office. That's my guess. Nick Sorter, LMAO, that's a hell of an idea. The left will get really pissed if Bezos starts helping out. That'd be incredible to watch, says Nick Sorter. Shit's going down tonight. I'd love to be a fly on the wall for this. I'd love to see the Elon and Bezos interaction. That would be epic. No, it's not epic. It's not epic. They are class allies. They are your class rivals. That is what this is. What do you think? They're going to throw shit at each other at the table? They're there to break bread. That's why Bezos didn't endorse. That's why the Washington Post didn't endorse Kamala Harris. They're there to break bread. They're there to make deals. They're there to get along. Because at the end of the day, they are on one team and you are on another team, but they've tricked you into not believing that. They've tricked you into thinking, wow, this is going to be, shit's going to go down at that table. I don't trust Bezos. Seems like he's just trying to weasel his way into the crew. No, man, you're trying to weasel your way into the crew. They are the crew. They're the richest people in the history of the fucking planet. You're a chump sitting here on social media. I don't trust this guy. We got to keep this guy out of our club. Whose club you think you're in, fuckface? I mean, how ridiculous are you? How ridiculous a person are you? They're just like the libs. The libs watch Morning Joe. They think they're sitting at the table. They're on the set.
Yep,
These guys see
they're in on
Bezos and
it.
Trump and Elon at the table. They're like, I don't like this Bezos guy. I don't trust this guy. Where'd he come from? Fuck that. Where'd you come from? Where'd you come? You think they give a shit what you have to think? You got Jeff Bezos, one of the richest men in the world. The only guy richer than him is Elon Musk. He's at the table too.
Yep.
I don't trust this guy. He's trying to weasel his way into the crew. I mean, how deluded do you have to be? How deluded do you have to be to think that?
Well, and this is where you really see the lost opportunity of the Sanders movement, because this is reality. Most people are not very smart. Most people are not really independent thinkers. Most people don't really have a politics. They have tribal affiliations. They go where they feel that they're accepted, that they can be part of a group, and the particulars are not really important. The particulars are incidental.
Right.
Now, if the Sanders movement had been able to gain power, that would have represented to the same exact people in most cases anti-establishment vigor and getting back at the man. And these same people would have been talking about socialism and Marx, and that's what we saw back then, the Bernie bros, right? It was a lot of people who were, in many cases, the same people. Very similar kind of personality style, very similar type. We're talking about why we don't have socialized medicine and taking up the basic point of view of the left. When Trump won and when the Democratic Party made it clear that they would never allow Bernie or anyone like him to have any power, all of that energy went to the right. All of the anti-establishment energy went to the right. And that's why you see this absurdity of people embracing what is just kind of classic Ayn Rand politics as populist politics. The people at the top should be unfettered. What are you, jealous or something? It's all very Atlas Shrugged kind of stuff, which they've managed to sell to a certain population as punk, as edgy, as cool.
Exactly.
It's just repackaged Reaganism. And as I've often pointed out, it's a peasant mindset. It's a peasant mindset. It's yes, I align myself with the Lord of the manor, and that makes me a good person. Yes, I support Lord Musk. Yes. Who wants to fight me over Lord Musk, right? Like that's what you are. You're a peon. Now, when you look at the two options in our system, they're both oligarchic parties designed to give away the store to billionaires.
Right.
So here you've got one set of billionaires that, ironically, given the media spin that the Democrats are the competent managers of technocracy and oligarchy, and the Republicans are not. When you look at a lot of this, it's quite the opposite. What I would say is, if you look at the things they want to go after, it's an upgrade in competence. You get rid of some of the pork, you get rid of some of the more ridiculous spending. I don't think they're really going to end up making the system any more billionaire friendly. How much more billionaire friendly could it be? These people pay no taxes. Sometimes they get money back. There's not much more that you could do to give away the store to people like Musk and Bezos. I think what a lot of people are going to respond to, and it's only going to reinforce the idea that people like this are your friends, are, they're going to go in there and they're going to expose 40% raise to Congress, and they're going to get rid of a lot of deeply unpopular things like that. The question is, as we saw this week where they completely misread the room with the CEO killing, where, as far as I know, Elon was smart enough to just stay away from that entirely, and so was Vivek. They just, as far as I know, they didn't say shit about it. But when you look at some of the handmaidens, Daily Wire types, Matt Walsh, who completely misread the room on the CEO slipping on a banana peel. Okay, so do they start trying to attack the $250 million for childcare? Do they do that? And what kind of a reaction do they get when they say, this is how they're wasting your money, and then they get backlash? Do they wind up overplaying their hand? As long as they're going after congressional rages and such, people are going to keep cheering.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. This is so, in this space, there's a whole, subset of people in this space who like sniffing out psyops and calling everything a psyop. If this is not a psyop, I don't know what is. Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, Bill Ackman, Jeff Bezos, Donald Trump. You have a bunch of billionaires getting together to prime you, the public, to believe instinctively and reflexively with no further scrutiny that government spending equals bad. And the more we cut, the better. Right. That's because they do intend to go after the child care. They do intend to slash the social safety net. So you want to talk about a psyop? This is a massive psyop of a cadre of people whose combined net worth at this point has to be over $1 trillion. Getting together, tweeting up a storm on social media. Yeah, absolutely. Tweeting up a storm on social media about how you should instinctively reject any government spending. This spending season happens every time. I told Russell on the phone yesterday, I said, this is like the liberals' Pride Month. Like the omnibus bill season is like Pride Month for the libs, where they get to virtue signal how great they are. They get to virtue signal how much they hate government spending. And now you have this cadre of ultra billionaires tweeting up a storm, getting people to believe that they are on your side, and that when they say we are going to come after government spending, it is to your benefit. That is a psyop if ever there was one. Make no mistake about that. And it was pretty fucking successful. It's easy to succeed when you have that kind of capital behind you. So Republicans scrap spending bill under pressure from Trump and Musk. So this is effectively a dead bill now. Republicans scrapped House Speaker Mike Johnson's bipartisan plan to avert a government shutdown as President-elect Donald Trump and Elon Musk joined a broad swath of the House GOP on Wednesday to condemn a compromise bill full of Democratic policy priorities. The rebuke, which built steady through the day and culminated with a long written statement from Trump in the late afternoon, has forced Johnson to back to the drawing board on a plan to prevent a Christmas-time shutdown and maintain the support of his chaotic conference to be reelected as Speaker early next year. That's obviously not going to happen. He's not going to hold that caucus together. Elon's tweet in the afternoon is what they linked to in this article. Your elected representatives have heard you, and now the terrible bill is dead. The voice of the people has triumphed. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. Notice, though, there's one bill that passed through pretty easily without much protest from Elon Musk. Tweeting up a storm. There. Yeah, tweeting up a storm about the $500 million for the child care and all the pork in the omnibus bill. But we have not heard too many complaints from Elon, Vivek, Ackman, Bezos. Nope, nor Trump. Nope. This just breezed right through. That's right. Defense bill passes Congress despite transgender provision. So the U.S. Senate voted overwhelmingly for an $895 billion bill setting policy for the Pentagon on Wednesday, despite the inclusion of a controversial provision on transgender medical care for minors. The 100-member Senate-backed National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, by 85-14. Since it passed the House of Representatives last week, approval sends it to the White House, where the bill's congressional supporters say Joe Biden is expected to sign it into law. It's funny because we saw a few tweets from Elon linking to some critique of the Pentagon spending. Interesting. Weird. Maybe a job for Doge. Not a word about that this week. Not a word about that this week. This just passed through with a breeze. You were tweeting like Nancy Mace, who found a soccer ball in her toilet stall. About the other spending bill. Not about this one. Not about this one. Yep. Nothing. Zero.
That is where you see that the fix is in.
Exactly. Zero.
Like this year, God knows what you would find in this if you went through it on a spending level. We already know that it's got all kinds of crazy language about Israel and our support for Israel. That, of course, they're not going to attack. But even the spending, who knows what you would find if you really went through this?
Of course. This year's NDAA authorizes a record $895 billion in annual military spending, covering purchases of ships, aircraft, and weapons, and including provisions intended to boost competitiveness with geopolitical rivals like China and Russia. The 1,800-page bill, wow, it's even longer. It's even longer. This one, the other one,
they were so outraged.
Yeah,
they were so outraged about 1,500 some odd pages.
Yeah. That photo. That's one of the first things here, right? Look at that photo. Ever seen a bigger piece of pork? That's 1,547 pages. The NDAA, even larger. Yet nothing about that. Interesting. focuses on improving the quality of life for the U.S. military. It authorizes a 14.5% pay increase for the lowest ranking troops and 4.5% for the rest of the force, higher than usual. It also authorizes billions of dollars for military housing, schools, and child care centers. The bill bans the military health program TRICARE from covering some gender-affirming care for the transgender children of service members if it could risk sterilization, a provision that caused some Democrats to vote no in the Senate and the House. The NAAA is not perfect, but it still makes several important advances Democrats fought for, Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said in the Senate before the vote. And you know who's, of course, very, very happy that this big Pentagon bill passed? Our friends over at AIPAC. Congress just passed the National Defense Authorization Act, authorizing pro-Israel provisions that will keep America and Israel safe. The importance of these provisions is underscored by Israel's current fight against aggression from Iran and its terrorist proxies. Here's a video that they put out touting the passage of this bill.
They always telegraph the next war.
Exactly, yes. So here's a video they put out touting the passage of this bill, and like they usually do, they use copyrighted music, so we added our own music under this. Not a word from any of the Doge people about any of this.
Not
zero. So Elon Musk, once again, despite having signaled that he was interested in trimming some of the fat off the military budget, said absolutely nothing about this. Tweeted all day yesterday, maniacally, about the pork in the omnibus bill. Nothing about this. Nothing about this whatsoever.
Well, that's how it always is with these people. Look in this hand. Don't look in this hand.
Right.
And you know, you got the woke element here. The conservatives are really playing up. Yeah, we put a stop to the transgender medicine. That's the function of it.
Right.
Both sides need these issues to obscure
That's the red herring.
what they're actually doing. Well, somebody with some influence needs to tweet this at Vivek and Elon, although as we saw, because hey, we always want to be fair here. I did a positive story about how they had responded to some people who tweeted at them about the defense budget. I'm not just going to consider people guilty until proven so. But of course, we said at the time, I'd be very surprised if they really go after the defense budget. Yeah, maybe at best they say the F-35 program is wasteful, and then they spend that same money someplace else in the military-industrial complex, and they call it a win. But are they really going to go after bills like this, particularly where Israel is concerned? No way. No way.
Of course. Of course. And what we're seeing here is the open purchase of the government by the richest person in the history of the world. I mean, it's just, it is comically obvious at this point. Like, this takes all the pretense out of it. The richest person in the history of the world is threatening to primary any candidate who votes for this bill, and he has virtually infinite resources to do so. So at that point, you are a democracy in name only. When the richest person in the history of the world is openly threatening members of Congress to personally fund primary challengers, and then you got the chorus chiming in. Bill Ackman's a billionaire himself. as well, saying the people, including Elon Musk, have made their voices known. The people, including the richest person in the history of the world, made his opinion known that this bill should not pass. And look, what a triumph for the people that it didn't. And if you think this hasn't reached comical heights yet, let me just get this. This is the last one. Rand Paul tweets out this morning, the Speaker of the House need not be a member of Congress. Nothing would disrupt the swamp more than electing Elon Musk. Think about it. Nothing's impossible, not to mention the joy at seeing the collective establishment, a.k.a. Uniparty, lose their ever-loving mind. So now you have Rand Paul floating, making Elon Musk the Speaker of the House, because it's true. Technically, the Speaker of the House does not have to be a sitting member of Congress. It can be anybody. So now they're talking about making the richest person in the history of the world the Speaker of the House because he's the richest person in the history of the world, and his words carry such a big stick. This is idiocracy times 10. This is out of a comic book. If someone wrote this in a comic book, that billionaires will just openly tweet out that they control the government, that would be too on the nose. You'd have to rewrite that, make it a little more subtle, because no one would buy that. But here we are. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, speaking of comic books, it's reminding me of the line in Watchmen, what happened to the American dream? It came true. You're looking at it.
Yeah, it came true. Yeah, exactly.
How could it have ended any other way? It's a hyper capitalist society. Well, who's going to inevitably end up ruling in a society like that? The most successful capitalists are eventually going to take over the government. Eventually, any illusion of a government by the people that puts a check on the private sector was bound to break down. And now the private sector is the government. And you have people who are so frustrated, who are so desperate that they're celebrating this because they've been convinced that these people coming into power represents the people coming into power, a notion that they are going to very quickly be disabused of. And if you look at what we saw this week around the CEO slipping on a banana peel, what you find is that the kind of Rescue the Republic podcast bros, that whole world, they are the corporate media to the Democratic Party, to this crowd. Their job is to propagandize their audience on behalf of this segment of the oligarchy. MSNBC, CNN, they propagandize on behalf of a different segment of the oligarchy, the Libby, Rockefeller, Davos segment of the oligarchy. Your Brett Weinsteins, your Daily Wires, they propagandize for this section of the oligarchy, and they are better at conveying the idea that they're there for the people. The CNN, MSNBC, they're pitching it to the professional managerial class and telling them, and you are going to act as intermediaries for the people because you're enlightened. You're not like those stupid Elon Musk people. They more directly say, no, Elon's one of you. He's fighting for you. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's all about funneling money and power to an elite class that does not care about you. Now, this portion of the elite has not really held the kind of power in the past that it's going to hold now. So people are still able to maintain their illusions about what it is. They'll be disabused of those very quickly, I think.
Yeah, well, I said, in one of the last shows we did, it's like the Upper West Side versus the Upper East Side. It's old money versus new money. This new billionaire class, they are the maverick billionaires, and they are trying to take power from the Davos billionaires. It's like the ultra rich versus the all powerful, right? Now, is it tempting to root
blue bloods?
Exactly. Now, is it tempting in a way to root for the maverick billionaires against the Davos billionaires? Yeah, because they have a more sort of renegade aesthetic than the Davos people do. So yeah, it's kind of entertaining to root for them.
They don't have creepy Klaus Schwab there.
Exactly.
You're gonna own nothing and be happy.
But it's you can root for them in like a Saturday morning cartoon kind of way. But that's all it really is. It's really just TV. It's really just entertainment. You think there's really anything in it for you? I mean, just look at what you just saw there. You saw, like I said, a psyop in real time. You have a handful of billionaires with a cumulative net worth over $1 trillion at this point, tweeting out how Elon Musk ordering the government around is a win for the people.
Right.
If that's not a psyop, then that word has no meaning. If you don't concede to me that that's a psyop, I don't want to hear anybody use that word ever again. If that's not what this was, that's absolutely what this was.
Well, and what's really funny,
and one thing, go. No, that's okay. You go first.
This is very Randian. Now I've come to know that when we do a segment like this with this kind of critique, you're gonna have really, really pathetically brainwashed people come out and say, the jealousy over Elon is dripping. It's dripping off of you. Okay, so by that standard, I mean, if you criticize Obama, you're jealous, right? If you criticize anyone who's rich and powerful, you'd be jealous by that standard. That is a classic old school libertarian and Rand kind of thing. The idea that any attempt to restrain wealth and the power of wealth is rooted in jealousy and envy and foul motives. You really have to have a peasant mind to absorb that and believe it and have been conditioned to have that reflex. That's the purpose of it. Just like you need the devil in order to make the whole church theology function. You need the devil. You got to be able to deflect to the devil. In order to justify just letting people like Musk and Bezos run around unfettered, you have to be able to deflect to the myth of the envious peasant.
Right.
And also, you could be that too. Yeah,
Right.
no, you could be that too. Just get yourself some parents with diamond mines, and
Right, yeah, exactly.
you too could be Elon Musk.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say on a personal note, if you have a child and you love your child, you're a bigger and better man than Elon Musk. You don't say my son is dead because they're trained. You don't disown your kid over that, no matter what. So, in terms of jealousy, money's not all that matters. That matters more. But back to the substance of the piece, a lot of people will come back and say, well, look at the pork in the bill. Is it not good that and that, like you said earlier, that's going to be what they rely upon.
Right.
Because they are going to cut some wasteful spending. And what I'm telling you is, I'm not saying that's not true. I'm saying in this context, that is a red herring. What happened here is a handful of billionaires with a cumulative net worth of over $1 trillion. I'm sorry to have to repeat that over and over again, but I think it's pretty fucking relevant. They ordered the government to kill a bill, and they did it in a matter of hours. That is a usurpation of power. That is a coup. That is a coup. We talk about coups. This was a fucking coup. That a billionaire can kill a spending bill in a few hours, that's not a win for the people. That's a win for the billionaires.
Right.
That is the lesson of this. It's yes, they cut some bullshit out of the bill. Fine. Okay, granted. That's not the big picture takeaway from this.
This is like celebrating that the local aristocrat did very well at the fox hunt.
Right, exactly. That's the big takeaway. So don't get hung up on the details of it, because what you just saw here was in real time, a handful of ultra-rich people just throw their weight at the government, and the government folded like an end table in a matter of hours.
And I want you, for people who think this is a triumph for you, explain to me like a 5-year-old how this is going to improve your life.
Right.
Understanding that, yeah, sure, it's very emotionally satisfying to see Congress not get their raises. I understand that. Explain to me like a 5-year-old how this is going to directly improve your life. Explain it to me.
Right. Exactly. All right, Pete Sweet, thanks for the $10. Congrats, not wavering on principles as your channel blows up. Thank you, Pete Sweet. Love that you don't give a shit about pandering to your audience. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Always count on DD, Jimmy, RBN, Gray Zone. I am Blakey, keeping it real. Thank you, Pete Sweet. Appreciate that very much. Appreciate the compliment. I'll put a heart on that one. John Freese, thanks for the $9.99, says establishment Republicans and Democrats are boomers, and the people who suck up to them Workers strike back calls for a new party. I think people under 50 and older allies should be main demographic. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but nothing is a third rail like that, John. Nothing. No matter of all the shit we say, nothing gets more pushback than the boomer talk. Nothing. Like that is the one thing that just guarantees a shit show. We don't do it that much anymore because ultimately it's not worth driving that kind of a wedge through the coalition. But I do agree with you.
Well, we've also made the point, and this is true. They've done studies on this. The reason the boomers that are left are so shitty is the ones that weren't died of poor health care, poverty. You know, the conservative ones are the ones that are left.
Right. They're the ones who had the money to stick around and say, hey, if I could go to college working at a coffee shop 2 days a week, why can't you?
Yep.
Right? Yep. Can't be that anything's changed since 1971. No. Can't be that it's a different world.
Of course not.
Right. Yeah. Let's see here. Good morning, fellas, says Mr. Fancy Pants. Sipping coffee from my new DD mug. Beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Fancy
nice.
Pants. Glad you like it.
Did you see somebody sent a message they could only see the mug in the store? I don't know what that was.
Oh, that's weird. I'll have to take a look at that. I will take a look at that. The Raging D-Head. Yeah, you can see Democrats got all their talking points last night. You see the President Musk thing making it around. Yeah, I mean, that is, I suppose, a talking point by this point. And like Russell said, that's the kind of shit that could get under Donald Trump's skin. If there's one way to get on his bad side, it's to upstage him. Yeah.
Yeah. That is a one-way ticket to the Steve Bannon Lonely Hearts Club.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You see Miller, thanks for the $10, taking daughter, her boyfriend to a Jimmy show. His search labeled Dora conspiracy theorist. This shows how online searches can create bias before first-hand experience, shaping opinions prematurely. Absolutely. Well, especially Google. Not that we have any problem with Google. We love Google. Keaton and Russell are a diamond mine or maybe a salt mine. Thank you, Raging D-Head. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, what do we got here? Eric Cousseau, Mar-a-Lago is the new Bilderberg. Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. Meet the new boss, baby. Same as the old boss.
That's right. Now they just do it on camera. They just put a TikTok video up of them showing up because the real psyop is to convince people that that's actually a great thing. I mean, could you believe that one tweet? I don't trust Jeff Bezos. Seems like he just wants to be a part of the club. He wants to be a part of the club. He's trying to weasel his way into the club. I like that.
Yeah.
Like you're in the club and he's not. He's trying to weasel his way into our club.
See. This is what a lot of people.
What a fucking country this is.
Well, this is what a lot of people who are, from that world who watch our show, they get upset because we're going to talk like that about the libs. But when it comes to this whole thing, we're going to go, nothing to see there.
He's trying to weasel his way into the crew. Guy's worth the fucking $100 billion. He's trying to weasel his way in.
And in a way, this is I'm at once more sympathetic to people like this than I usually am to the libs.
Right.
For the same reason that it's even sadder than with the libs. The libs, at least they're generally PMCs.
Right.
They have some reason to have the illusion that they're part of the power structure.
Right. At least they know how to taste wine.
Right. Most people who are talking this way, what, you think because you listen to Joe Rogan,
right,
that you're in on the conversation, that you're part of the club?
Yeah.
Look, you want to find out how part of the club you are? Go say the minimum wage should be raised in these circles.
Yep.
Go say that. And then you'll find out how much they give a shit about you.
Exactly.
And what you think.
Exactly. All right, folks, we're going to move on with the show in just a moment, but it is a morning show, and what do you drink in the morning? Rumble
Coffee.
1775 coffee. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
So have you...
Where's our package, man?
I know, we got to get that package. So now the campaign's in progress. So have you heard of the recent advertising scandal? Let me break it down. The CEO of Rumble, Chris Pavlovski, recently released an email from Inspire Brands and Dunkin' Donuts. That email explicitly states that the culture of Rumble is too polarizing. So in other words, Dunkin' Donuts has a problem with Rumble's culture and wants nothing to do with it. So there's a solution to this, which is to stop buying products that don't support free speech and to start supporting brands that do. The competing coffee brand that we should get behind is Rumble's 1775 coffee. Comes very well reviewed by the dissidents who have purchased it. And it comes in 16-ounce bags, so you get a lot of bang for your buck as opposed to at the supermarket. It comes in the 10 and the 12-ounce bags. For a limited time, Rumble is offering buy 2 bags of coffee and get 1 for free. So go to 1775 Coffee and enter promo code Dunkin, good troll by Rumble, DUNKIN, to get this limited time deal. 1 bag of coffee free with 2 bags purchased. And like I said, those are 16-ounce bags, so that's a whole lot of coffee for not too much money. So go to 1775coffee.com and enter promo code Dunkin. Hey, you know what coffee I bought the other day? You're not going to like this because you said that you hated this coffee. And I remember thinking it was not bad. I haven't had it in years, but it was on sale and it was very cheap. So I got the Javalia coffee, which you said you hated.
Oh my God. I couldn't finish it. I threw out the bag.
Yeah.
It was that was like the worst coffee I've ever had in my life, I think.
Really? Wow. I don't remember it being
absolutely
bad.
awful. And I'm a guy who likes bodega coffee.
Well, they used to sell Javalia.
That was the worst coffee I ever had in my life.
They used to advertise Javalia on TV. You used to have to like call the 1-800 number back in the 90s and like order it. Like it used to be like this like luxury product that was marketed that way.
A luxury product?
That's how it was marketed. You got to call an 800 number to buy it. It wasn't like you can get it in stores, you know. It was this big deal. What is it, from Sweden, Switzerland, wherever?
Someplace where they don't know how to make fucking coffee.
Cold weather countries.
That shit was disgusting, man. I'm a big pussy, man. I'm like, my coffee is like a milkshake. Sugar,
Right.
a lot of sugar, a lot of milk. For the coffee to be so bad that I have to throw it out with all the crap I throw in my coffee.
Right,
that's got to be some pretty bad coffee.
You'd think the milk and sugar would mask any lousiness of the coffee.
Not with that shit.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'll let you know how it is.
It tasted like coffee that you put in the pot and you reheated it until it burned like 3 times.
Interesting. This is not, I haven't opened it yet. I still have some of my other coffee. This is that Black Rifle coffee, which is pretty good.
I've heard that's good, yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not great. It's not bad. The
I'm
coffee
very
that's really
happy with
good if
my
you can get your
San
hands on
Francisco
it.
Bay.
Yeah, there's another one. It's up here because it's from Utica, but it's Utica Coffee Roasters. I don't know if you can find that down there. It's probably harder because I'm fairly close to Utica. That is very good. That is really, really good. Yeah, yeah. So I would look for that. But they don't even have that at that many stores up here. So that's why I got this Black Rifle
There's
today.
a place here. I don't think they sell it outside of their store. It's a little chain now. They get the beans from South America. They roast them in Brooklyn. The stores are called Devotion.
Okay. I mean, there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch
that is some great coffee, man.
Yo, the coffee, I think I told you what it was. I forget what it was. Was it Black Fox? Yeah. I had that when I came in for the Jose event. I'm like, I'm in New York. They got some fun, decadent, expensive coffee. I'm going to just buy one. It was $5 for a cup, but man, was that good. It was delicious. Black Fox, you got to look that up. It's in Midtown.
I was saying, I don't smoke anymore. I'm not a drinker. I have no vices.
Right. You can indulge
coffee
on coffee.
is like my one indulgence. Let me see how much Kona costs. I looked at that shit. I was like, fuck that.
Oh, yeah. Kona's expensive. The Jamaica Blue Mountain one is expensive.
I am not paying that for coffee. No way.
Yeah.
It was like it was something like $64 or something. For
I know the Blue Mountain
bag.
The Jamaica Blue Mountain coffee, which they had at the coffee roaster place on Bleecker, which was part of our food tour. That's how I know what it was. I forget what it's called now. The place on Bleecker with all the bags in it.
Oh, yeah, Puerto Rico
importing. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They have the Jamaica Blue Mountain, which was like $50 a pound 10 years ago. So I'm sure that's up to 60, 70, 80 a pound now.
Yeah. Maybe more with the freaking post-pandemic inflation.
Yeah. All right, let's do a Disney story. This is a labor story.
All right, so this is a soft open. We're making a lot of changes in the show. So Thursdays, theoretically, I'm going to do a pop culture oriented story, although this is also a labor story. That's why we call it a soft open. So Disney is probably the most visible and glaring example of a pink washing company. of a company that uses LGBTQ issues to cover up its corporate practices. I think Disney, is it the most evil company? No, they're not an oil manufacturer, but they're very visible, particularly because Bob Iger, their current CEO, went on a buying spree and bought up all of these companies that are really storehouses of our most beloved cultural myths, like Star Wars, like the Pixar library, like Marvel. And then they put this agenda into it, while at the same time, very hypocritically behind the scenes, abusing their workers. So there's a good example of a Disney kind of a cultural war story. Disney exec cops to advancing gay agenda by adding queerness to shows. This was a video that leaked of one of their creative directors talking about how they were subverting all the Disney cartoons by putting tacit gay content into it. They also really revolutionized the idea of fan baiting as a method of selling their products, where you accuse your fans of being racist ahead of the show ever airing in order to gin up the kinds of articles that'll get people screaming on social media about the show. So they accused people of being racist towards a black actress in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And usually this is deployed in cases where the show or the movie is bad in order to deflect attention from that. And so that you can say when people call it bad, it's not bad, you're a racist, you're a sexist. Kathleen Kennedy several times attacked male Star Wars fans. Now, at this point, it looks like the ESG money is drying up, because this was a big Disney story this week. They cut the trans storyline from Pixar's Win or Lose series, and they made the statement, many parents would prefer to discuss certain subjects on their own terms. Oh, you don't say. You don't say. But we're not going to get into that. That's pretty much all there is to that. But what does Disney really do? What do? They're fighting these cultural battles and remaking Mulan into a girl boss and empowering women and championing diversity and putting in DEI departments and setting percentages of diversity they have to have in their workforce. Wow, what a noble company. Oh, Disney reaches $233 million settlement in minimum wage lawsuit. That's what all that is about. That's what all that is about. They want you talking about that so you don't look at what the company actually does, what the company actually is, what it actually does to its workers. And I can tell you, just being from the entertainment industry, I've heard this my entire life, that Disney was one of the worst companies to work for. Yep. Everybody in entertainment knows that on any level. Whether you're an actor, I knew actors who worked at the theme parks. I knew people who worked at the studios. I never heard anyone say a good thing about working for Disney.
Yeah, no, I knew people who worked at the parks too, and yeah, they had nothing good to say.
Never a good word.
I got to run and put the dog in the other room. I'll watch on here so I don't miss anything. I'll be right back.
Okay. After a 5-year legal battle over claims of dodging minimum wage requirements, Disney will pay $233 million to settle a class action representing more than 50,000 underpaid Disneyland workers. In a statement, Randy Rennick, a lawyer representing the employees, said, quote, "This settlement will put significant awards in the hands of those workers and positively impact their lives, as well as the health and well-being of their families." Anaheim voters' passage in 2018 of Measure L, which forced hospitality businesses that receive tax rebates to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour, with bumps tied to inflation, sparked the lawsuit. After the initiative was approved, Disney moved to end $267 million in subsidies for a luxury hotel to evade the mandate. Josh D'Amaro, chairman of Disney Parks, also called to end a decades-long moratorium on entertainment taxes. Workers filed a proposed class action in Orange County Superior Court pointing to a series of deals with Anaheim in 1996, under which over $200 million in tax rebates were granted to Disney to help finance the construction of California Adventure and a parking garage. The 5 workers who filed the lawsuit earned between $12 to $14.25 per hour working at the resort, according to the complaint. Disney maintained it's not covered by Measure L. It argued that the word rebate, as defined in the ordinance, is limited to the return of taxes paid by residents. The court sided with the entertainment giant, finding that it doesn't enjoy a city subsidy. Last year, a state appeals court reversed the decision. A 3-judge panel of California's 4th District Court of Appeal, citing employee protections in the measure, concluded that the 1996 agreements constitute subsidies since they afford Disney the right to receive a return of taxes. The state Supreme Court declined to review the case. Disney and lawyers representing the workers on Friday moved for the court to approve the deal. A judge will consider the agreement at a hearing next month. In a statement, a Disneyland spokesperson said that all cast members, quote, make at least the Measure L requirement of $19.99 per hour, and in fact, 95% of them make more. She added, we are pleased that this matter is nearing resolution. In July, Disney negotiated an agreement with Master Services, Disneyland's largest union, representing more than 13,000 cast members who work in attractions, custodial, and merchandise, that raised base pay to $24 an hour. A 2018 survey from Occidental College and Economic Roundtable found that Disneyland employees reported high instances of homelessness, food insecurity, and low wages. Nearly 75% of respondents said they don't earn enough money to pay for basic expenses, with 10% saying that they've recently been homeless or didn't have a place of their own to sleep. More than 85% of union workers earn less than $15 per hour, it concluded.
Wow.
Now, if you remember, yeah, well, that's why Goofy's stinking a little bit over there.
Yeah.
Sleeping in his car, then throwing on the mascot suit, doesn't have a place to shower.
And this is Disneyland, not Disney World. So this is California. This is Los
California,
Angeles.
liberal California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, liberal. That's a hypocrisy. It's also a fucking fortune to live in LA. Anywhere near Anaheim.
Well, yeah, Orange County. There's Disneyland's in Orange County.
Yep.
Yes, this is the kind of thing that Disney was really known for by anyone who really knew what their labor practices were like. But what has the public been arguing about? How bad the Star Wars movies are, how Rey is a Mary Sue. And I'll give some aid and comfort to my co-host here. I will say, as somebody who consumes a lot of nerdy content about film and games and such, they never talk about this shit. They never talk about this. All of the stories this week, and this is part of why I wanted to cover this, those channels were all over them pulling that trans storyline out of the Pixar cartoon. I haven't seen any of them headline this triumph for the workers.
Which ones are you talking about? Which channels? I'm kidding.
Generally.
Yeah, generally. Yeah.
Refresh
my memory. Which ones? Yeah.
I watch. Critical Drinker doesn't really do the day-to-day kind of culture war stories. He does more actual reviews. But the other ones that chase culture war, I haven't seen this headline pop up on my feed. And YouTube feeds me these channels. I haven't seen that.
Right.
Everybody covered the trans thing.
Right.
But they really did not cover this. And in that is a microcosm of the problem with that kind of media. It's no different from the Daily Wire problem and the way that they reacted to the CEO, right? They're very out of touch with a lot of their own fan base when it comes to things like this. A lot of them have been drawn into a very libertarian conservatism that some of their fans have been brainwashed into, a fair amount of them, but it doesn't really serve the kind of people who consume that media, who tend to be more downscale in my experience.
Yeah, I just want to do some basic math before we move on. So if they're making less than $15 an hour to work in Orange County, okay,
yeah.
you can't live.
Of course they're homeless.
Right. You can't
How
live.
the hell would you live there on that?
Right. I mean, well, you can't live in Orange County on that. That's obviously not feasible. If you live anywhere in commuting distance, you're still paying a fortune to live. I mean, Los Angeles
And with
is
the
a
gas prices
fortune now.
Yeah,
Yes, that's the other part of it. So you can't live close to the park if you're making less than $15 an hour. That's not possible. So you have to live far enough out to the point where you have a significant commute in. What are gas prices in California? What, $6 a gallon? You're talking about it probably costs you $20 in gas to get to and from work, especially if you count the traffic and all the idling, and that burns gas too. So you're talking about burning over an hour's of your worth of your salary on the gas getting there and back. That's what that means.
You're talking about a company so evil that they tried to get out of a lawsuit where a woman died of an allergic reaction to food after being assured. She repeatedly asked there. I can't remember if it was shellfish. I think it was shellfish. There's none, or it might have been a nut. There's none of that in here. No, definitely, ma'am. Definitely none of that in there. They tried to get out of it by claiming that because she had signed a Disney Plus contract, she was not allowed to sue the company going forward. That is how evil Disney is. This is the same company that wants to come out and beat its breast about the racist and sexist fans. That's why they do it. That is why they do it, so that you don't talk about this. And frankly, it works on most of these channels that cover Disney, because they do not cover this. I never saw any of those channels cover this. Article is going to mention it coming up, that Disney was being sued by women for pay discrimination. The company that really, I think the term girl boss was invented for the Disney formula of the flawless woman hero.
Right.
But how are they actually treating their female employees?
Exactly.
So the settlement was reached after Disney last month agreed to pay $43.25 million to settle a class action from roughly 9,000 female employees in California who accused the company of pay discrimination. Under the deal, Disney will retain experts to address significant pay differences using a model commissioned by lawyers representing the women. So, all right, some good news, and I would say that's the more significant story. I'm happy to see them take the trans storyline out of a cartoon. I do think, as they said, as anyone could have told them, parents would prefer to engage with their own children about those subjects as they see fit. They don't need Disney to decide what their children's attitudes need to be about that and at what age it's appropriate for them to learn that.
Yeah, it's a pretty intense thing to shoehorn into a kid's movie.
Well, they've been doing this for years, and this is where all of this. So I don't dismiss that. I've talked about it a lot myself. But this is what all of that is meant to obscure. This is a company that has been notorious for decades for brutalizing its workers, not just in the parks. One of the reasons that their movies look like shit now is because they're so chintzy about what they want to pay animators. Right. They're notoriously brutal on expecting enormous amounts of output for really minimal pay. So the animation studios that win these contracts, they do the best they can with what they can do after having to lowball it enough to get the contract with Disney.
Right. And that's one of the things they were always known for, is just putting a superior product up on the screen. Whether you liked them, didn't like them, you couldn't take it away. I mean, those, even like the newer movies, like the Toy Stories and the Monsters Inc. and the Finding Nemos, I mean, those are just great movies. Inside Out, the first one, I haven't seen the second one, is just a brilliant movie.
Second one was supposed to be good.
Yeah. Did you ever see the first one? Oh, you got to see the first one. The first one is actually
I
brilliant.
only know from the geeks talking about it that the second one was good.
Okay. Well, I'm sure the second one is good. And the first one was brilliant, like an actually brilliant movie. But then going back, I mean, Snow White, that's a work of art. Now, obviously, we know this one's going to be a million times better. But, you know, the first Snow White was a work of art. It was. And so they've always put a great product up on the screen. And now you can see even that's starting to dwindle because they've just become even more greedy than they've always been.
That's it. It's gotten to the point. It's almost a metaphor for America. Like ultimately, their greed got so out of hand that it's destroying the very product that they were once, love it or hate it, masters of creating.
Right. You could never take that away from them, that they put a great product out. And even the parks, even that, like it was always a fortune to go to the parks, but like it was a great experience to go to a Disneyland park.
Well,
I
that's
haven't
another,
been
that's
since
another
then.
thing. They've raised it to the point that
Right.
now it's killing business because
Right.
families can't afford it. It's $5,000 to go to the park for a weekend. Who can afford that?
Yeah, who the fuck can afford that? Yeah. Yeah. It's just crazy. And you don't get breaks. Like I would ask, like, so when you work at the park, do you guys get like passes to like for family to come in discounted? No, nothing. No perks for anybody. No, nothing. Yeah. Just pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. My real name says there are no benevolent billionaires. Thank you, my real name. Appreciate that. Andrew L479 just returned from my round Earth trip right to the South Pole to displace YouTube flat earthers and claim their underwear in self-defense. Changed my name to hide that. I'm actually North Polish. Thank you, North Polish. I like that one. Alrighty, what do we got here? It's Bruce Wayne versus Lex Luthor. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yes, that's a good one way to think of it. Absolutely. I sent an email as I might have had an old link to the merch store where there was only one mug. It's where I brought the T-shirt 4 weeks ago of Russ's age, so the technical stuff sucks. So the link should be dudissidents.com/merch. Here, let me test it for you right now. That should be. And what I might do is I might just put the new merch on the old store if the new store isn't going to link to YouTube, which it's supposed to. It's supposed to. I know RBN store. I might have to pick Nick's brain about how they linked it because they were able to link their store and it says our store is linked, but it's not showing up in the video. So yeah, dudissidents.com/merch you to this store here. So that's where you can find all of our cool stuff. And that has two kinds of mugs. There's the plain white, and then there's the white with the colored tones here, just in case anyone likes it, you know. So you can get it in green, purple, red. Now, I personally like the simplicity and the classiness of just the plain white one. I think that is a winning mug.
That's a
there.
great mug.
Yeah, that's an amazing mug. No one's ever seen a mug like that. People are saying
Everybody's talking about it.
Everybody's talking about it. That's right. Okay, so there you go. There's that. All right. Let's take some super chats and then we'll move on. But by the way, folks, we're 10 likes away from 666. So let's hit that over on YouTube so we can give you that sound drop.
Yeah, we got to get consistent.
Yeah, exactly. Got to keep it consistent. So smash that like button 10 more times, folks, and we'll get that for you. Let's see. Debs Mo, thanks for the $10. Appreciate that, Debs Mo. Cooper, Debs, that was a super sticker from Debs Mo, so there's no chat there. So thank you. Cooper, who else remembers when Russell wore glasses? When did you wear glasses? I think you wear them every
during the Ellen doc.
Oh, that's right. There you go. There you go.
I was in my office. It was casual. But I did know when we were first doing the show, I used to wear my glasses.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Beautiful. Thank you very much. Javalia says TomTom used to be great back in the 80s and 90s when they were a subscription, but they are garbage now. Interesting. They don't even sell the stuff they used to anymore. See, I didn't know that. I knew they were the subscription coffee back in the day. They sold out.
I'm just telling you, man, the shit I got in my store here, I tried. I couldn't finish. I don't think I've ever had a bag of coffee I threw out.
Interesting. Well, I got to see. Well, I'll let you know when I try it. So, yeah, so they started as a subscription model doing good coffee, and now they got the Genesee. They're like the TYT of coffee.
Yeah.
They took the money, and the product went through the floor. Kyle Matovsik, good morning, gents. Check your email, please. Thank you. Will do, Kyle. Appreciate that. Tom, thanks for the $4.99. And I told you guys before, buy the green coffee beans and roast your own coffee like I do. That's interesting. That might be a fun experiment. Maybe I'll try that. Michael Castillo, thanks for the $10. Says, I was listening to the Ben Mahler show on Fox Sports Radio, and one of the producers just came back from Kiev, Ukraine, and gave Ben headgear and eye protection from a Russian soldier. To be continued. The producer then said while in Kiev, he ate nothing but KFC. BlackRock is doing to Ukraine what KBR did to Iraq during the War on Terror. Wow. That is something. Thank you, Michael, for that. Appreciate that.
You know, I got to say, like, I was never really a junk food person. I was watching, I'll send this to you and Jimmy. It was pretty interesting, man. There's this channel I just stumbled on. They're going through all these depressed Rust Belt cities and doing like 10-minute documentaries, talking to people. Right. And one of the people they're interviewing, it's in a convenience store. And you look at the food that's in there, like these things shouldn't even exist. This I'm with RFK on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
Like all of this shit is poison. It's not food. It's all poison.
Yeah, it is a whole lot of garbage. That's for sure. All right, we got our Jeffrey Sachs, Tucker Carlson piece. Let's get to that. That's fun.
Okay.
Two-parter kind of.
All right. So the Israelis are up in arms about this interview. They're up in arms. Tucker is spotlighting these anti-Semites. And in one case, they may have a point. But I don't think in this particular case, we don't want to litigate that again. But
well, there's a saying about Israel, which is even when they have the point, fuck them anyway.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
Well, and I ironically, the other one's very pro-Israel.
Right. Exactly.
So you know, you can't. And actually, we didn't hear much from them about that, if you remember.
Right.
This one they're very upset about though, because here is a systemic critique. Not of Winston Churchill. This is a systemic critique of Israel and its effect on our government. So they were not happy about it. So let's see what Jeffrey Sachs had to say that got them so upset.
What happened was the U.S. got bogged down in Iraq. There was the insurgency. We didn't move onward to the next war, which was to be Syria, which was to happen already 20 years ago. But in 2011, what really brought Assad down last week started under Obama. And this is also interesting. It doesn't really matter who's president. This is long-term deep state policy. Obama ordered the CIA to overthrow Assad. So that started in 2011.
But why would Obama want to overthrow Assad?
Because Israel has run American foreign policy in the Middle East for 30 years. That's how it works. We have an Israel lobby. We have this clean break strategy. We have a plan for 7 wars in 5 years. And what's interesting is they actually kind of carry out this madness. They don't explain any of it to the American people. They don't tell anybody, but you can watch step by step. We've had 6 of those 7 wars.
Okay, so that's the clip that's really making the round. He show me the lie. And Jeffrey Sachs, the reason the establishment gets so upset about him is he was really one of their golden boys. You know, he really helped to shape the neoliberal idea with, I think, good intentions. A lot of his ideas turned out to be wrong, but he was very much, Naomi Klein attributes a lot of the shock doctrine thinking to him when the communist countries were first falling and changing their economies. He was the consultant who came in with what they called shock treatment to change over their economies. A lot of people feel that didn't work. That's part of why Russia had such a difficult transition from a communist economy. emphasis on micro loans and improving the economic conditions as a way of reforming government rather than to reform government as a way to improve the economy, which again, a lot of people are saying he was wrong about. But hey, man, he was in the Bono Club. He had Bono writing the introduction to his books. So a lot of his insight comes from the fact that he worked a lot in Russia. He knows a lot of the players. He knows a lot of these people. He has a very long and distinguished career as an economist, as an advisor to the UN. He knows what is spoken of in the halls of power. And when a guy like this sits down, who has had access to these high councils for decades, and he sits down and tells you Israel runs our foreign policy, you have to take it seriously. And people calling him an anti-Semite. Sachs is Jewish, actually. But we know that's never stopped them before.
It's never stopped them before. Not only is he's Jewish, but he was a fixture on mainstream media for the longest time until he started talking like this, which is why, like, the first time I ever heard him buck the narrative, and I forget what that occasion was or what exactly he said, but the first time I ever saw him do that, I'm like, wow, those words sound strange coming out of his mouth, because I'm used to seeing him on MSNBC and CNN and all these places, and now, just like they did to Matt Taibbi when he questioned Russiagate, they don't invite him back. You never see him anymore. Now you only see him on podcasts. That's it.
Nope. And that is a good segue into the other clip I want to show, where
all right, so set this up again, because we're going to do this as 2 clips probably.
Okay.
Unless you have it structured. I mean, it's up to you.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
All
right. You feel like that's enough? For
yeah,
that?
I think that was good.
See,
I think that was
you're
fine.
seeing how the sausage is made, folks.
Yeah, what do you think, folks? You think that's enough? If you clicked on that, would you feel like you got your money's worth?
Would you feel like you got enough?
Would you feel like you got enough? If we make 3 cents in ad revenue off of that clip, do you feel like we didn't earn it? You feel like we stole your 3 cents?
Okay. So Tucker interviewed Jeffrey Sachs, former neoliberal establishment economist in good standing turned renegade. And Sachs had some very interesting things to say about the New York Times. And so somebody like Jeffrey Sachs just breaking away from the establishment and turning on them is particularly valuable because, look, you got schmucks like us that can only speculate based on that pretty good evidence, but we can only speculate on what really goes on inside the New York Times. Jeffrey Sachs really knows what goes on inside the New York Times. And what he says here is something we all know, but it's still fascinating to hear it from somebody who knows firsthand.
The New York Times be parroting the security state?
Well, I think that's a question that goes back.
But why would the New York Times be parroting the security state?
Well, I think that's a question that goes back decades, partly because it's staffed in part by probably people from the intelligence agencies. We've known that for years. I don't know.
At the New York Times.
But we know in the past that CIA just had reporters on the payroll. I mean, whether they do or not now, I have no idea. So I'm not making a current claim, but we know that that's a historic fact. We know historically that with very rare exceptions, the New York Times has just followed the unnamed official sources, that this is the whole MO. This patriotic newspaper. It follows what it's told to do. And it doesn't ask questions. It has not asked any questions about any of these wars in recent memory, not about Ukraine, not about the wars raging throughout the Middle East. As I said, I think there was one full page actually about Operation Timber Sycamore in 2016. You would think that something that got us into a war of 13 years where we spent billions of dollars, where hundreds of thousands of people died, even at this stage, there would be a kind of page or a box explaining the historical background to this, but it didn't exist. I actually wrote, I have to say, I wrote to one of the reporters saying, couldn't you mention a little background? Said, oh, very interesting idea, Mr. Sachs. So I'm waiting.
You wrote to a New York Times reporter.
Well, I know these people for decades.
Yeah.
And by the way, not only do I know them, and some I like very much, by the way, and some have been classmates of mine a long time ago, and they know things that they don't report. And that's also important to understand, that what they will say in private is the opposite of what their newspaper says. And I mean literally the opposite.
Now that is just a fascinating part of that interview. The whole interview is well worth watching. I would really recommend it. This is what we suspect but can't prove. And here you have somebody with firsthand knowledge that these reporters, they know better. They know that they're putting out propaganda. I've mentioned when I went to see Taibbi give a lecture in Brooklyn, afterwards, there was a little clutch of people around him waiting to meet him. And he said there are 7 reporters that everyone knows works for the CIA, so much so that when you see certain headlines, you don't have to see the byline. You know one of the 7 wrote that article.
Right.
I asked him subsequently if he could name those people, and I think he's worried about getting sued if he did. But I take him at his word, and here's Sachs basically confirming that. He's careful to say, I don't know if that's still true. I think we can assume that that's true. Do you want to add anything before we go on to the article?
Well, yeah, I mean, just when it comes to that, because you have to think, okay, there's got to be something bigger than them bearing down on them. The New York Times, it's not like us. It's not like indie media creators. You know, we are basically like Uber drivers, right? I mean, yes, we're independent, but we're Uber drivers in the sense that we're on a platform. We need the platform to reach the audience. And platforms have rules. There's censorship. This is why we build our Rumble channel the way we do, because they're a free speech platform. But when we're here in East Berlin, there are certain stories that we either can't cover or we have to cover in very specific ways, like the Luigi one, right? We have to be very, very careful and issue all kinds of disclaimers, and it's kind of a drag to do it, to be honest, because you can't just have an adult conversation without worrying about censorship. This is the New York Times. This is an institution, right? They have they're their own outlets. They can do what they want. There's a First Amendment. So if they're doing what they're doing, it must mean they're answering to somebody. They have to be answering to somebody, because no one wants to engage in that censorship. Journalists don't get into it so that they can be controlled. So once you reach that point, if your content and your editorial bent is a certain way, as we're going to see in this next piece that Russ has, it's because they're answering to somebody. It's because someone is bearing down on them, just the way the indie media creators have, you know, YouTube and Facebook bearing down on them to watch that they don't step out of line. They must have that too. And who could it be? Who could it be? They don't need these big tech platforms. The fucking New York Times. It's got to be the intelligence agencies. It's got to be the military-industrial complex. It has to be.
And
this, so I think it makes any logical sense.
Well, and this is why the more you really do research, the more you really read actual books by actual experts who are not deep state operatives, the more radicalized you become. Because the more you realize that the entire mainstream narrative is no different than if you lived in a totalitarian police state where the press is literally an arm of the government. The reporting we get is that controlled. It is that circumscribed. And case in point, this just happened to drop right at the same time as this Sachs interview, but it makes his point very well. So Drop Site News, which has been doing some very good work, I must say, just dropped this article. The New York Times ignored sources' doubts about Hamas docs provided by Israel. A key source named by the New York Times as an expert helping to verify the authenticity of internal Hamas documents in a major report in October, told Drop Site News he had raised concerns about the veracity of the documents in his interviews with the Times. Israel provided the paper with alleged Hamas meeting minutes as part of its campaign to directly link Iran to the planning of the October 7th attacks. Salah al-Din al-Awawda, whom the paper described as, quote, a Hamas member and a former fighter in its military wing who is now an analyst based in Istanbul, said a Times reporter only permitted him to review one page of the 30 pages of documents the Times asked him to verify. Al-Awada, I hope I'm saying that right, according to WhatsApp messages seen by Dropsite News, told a Times reporter that without seeing more of the document, it is hard to judge its authenticity. Quote, I asked for the other pages, and he said he couldn't send them to me, but he said he could read them to me at a later time, and I told him that wouldn't work. If I could see the pages, it would be preferable, he told Dropsite. The Times never provided Al-Awada with additional pages and subsequently cited him in an October 12th story as the only named source for its verification of what it described as, quote, minutes of Hamas's secret meetings that provide a detailed record of the planning for the October 7th terrorist attack. Okay, so in spite of the fact, according to this, in spite of the fact that he told them he hadn't seen enough, they quoted him as a source that verified the documents. Al-Awada said he told the Times that he did not believe the alleged Hamas meetings were specifically about the October 7th plans, and that he doubted Iran or any other outside forces were informed in advance of the plot. Nonetheless, the story was published with the headline, Secret Documents Show Hamas Tried to Persuade Iran to Join its October 7th Attack. So this is the newspaper of record, the New York Times. They literally had the source tell them, I doubt this is authentic. I would need to see more to verify. And they still not only ran with that headline, but claimed that he had verified it by name.
Yep.
By name.
That's how you end up like CNN doing the Syria jail story. Like,
right.
Right.
Well,
intentional carelessness.
They're working for the intelligence services.
Right.
That is what Sachs points out. Although he says he doesn't know presently, he knows that was the case in the past. When you look at this kind of reporting, why would they do it this way? Right. And what he does say is they know better. They know better. Notably, the Times did not address Dropsite's questions about the authenticity of the documents in response to a request for comment. The story, quote, involved multiple reporters speaking to numerous people in order to understand, corroborate, and contextualize the documents referenced, Times spokesperson Charlie Statlander said in a statement. This work did not just interpret the sensitive documents themselves, but also reported from multiple angles on the real-life events and entities involved. It's an exhaustive and deeply reported piece of independent journalism. Mr. Al-Awada, I'm sorry. Let me take a second. Mr. Al-Awada. Would you say that's right? Probably.
Awada.
See,
Yeah,
it's that extra W.
That extra W is probably silent. At least we'll say it is. Ignorant Westerners that we are.
Awade,
yeah.
Right?
Awade. There you go. Awade. I like that. Yeah, I like that.
All right, we're gonna run with that. Mr. We don't mean any disrespect. These kinds of names are unfamiliar to us. Mr. Awade was just one of the numerous people consulted in the course of reporting to offer context, and was not the sole or even primary means of understanding the contents of the documents. The Times, however, stated that it consulted Al-Awade specifically to assess their authenticity. So basically, they did a big dance to avoid the reality that they attributed confirmation to this guy that he never in fact gave. Okay, you had other people confirmed it. Who are they? Who confirmed it? This episode, along with other reports published in the Times and other major U.S. and international news organizations, raises serious questions about the extent to which powerful media organizations have permitted Israel to launder its agenda in Gaza. Throughout the past 14 months, news organizations have crafted stories based on unverified Israeli assertions and intelligence that have bolstered Israel's strategic messaging and propaganda campaigns that often accompany its escalation of brutality and killing in Gaza. Last week, the New York Times published a major article headlined "Records Seized by Israel Show Hamas Presence in UN Schools," alleging that at least 24 UNRWA employees working as educators in schools run by the UN agency in Gaza were members of Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and that nearly all of the UNRWA personnel linked to Hamas were fighters in the group's armed wing, the Qassam Brigades. The paper based the claims on secret Hamas military plans that showed that the Qassam brigades regarded schools and other civilian facilities as the best obstacles to protect the resistance in the group's asymmetric war with Israel, unquote. The Times story does not mention that Israel's previous allegations that UNRWA is a front group for Hamas have been repeatedly debunked. In a statement to Dropsite News, an UNRWA spokesperson pointed to the fact that the Times admits it did not independently authenticate the alleged records. Quote, "These articles can only be seen as feeding into a blanket claim that UNRWA is a terrorist organization, something that is unheard of in the history of the UN," said UNRWA spokesperson Tamara Al-Rafai. "We have had several instances since the war started in Gaza with a few reputable media outlets covering the claims against UNRWA in an utterly unprofessional and mostly irresponsible way, putting the lives of our own staff at risk while they are racing against time to distribute food, manage shelters, and fix water pumps during the fighting." The Times wrote it could not authenticate the records provided to the paper directly by the Israeli military, but instead justified publishing their claims by saying that the documents, quote, "bear similarities with other Hamas records that the Times has examined." Dropsite asked the Times which previous Hamas documents it was referring to, and Statlander did not reply. In other words, it's just a bunch of horse shit. This is why nobody trusts the media at this point, and they'll spill endless ink smearing Rumble, for example, and other competitors for people's consumption of news that in the end certainly are not doing a worse job. And even when maybe you don't agree with a take, or maybe you feel these outlets get something wrong, it is less often that I look at an independent commentator, even one that I might ideologically disagree with, and feel that they are literally lying, making things up, working for government agencies and outlets. Now, what Sachs lays out there, that you have intelligence agents probably still working in these organizations. And as I said, Taibbi, without reservation, said that there are CIA operatives working at these media outlets. I mean, some of them are just open. You watch MSNBC or CNN, you have people who have formerly,
it's on their resume. They put it on the Chiron.
It's on their resume. A lot of them are working for defense contractors, and they usually don't disclose that. And he said that these reporters know better, which one would assume. One would assume if you're smart enough to write for the New York Times, you're probably smart enough to know what you're writing for the New York Times is not true. These are just propaganda outlets. And that is why when you talk to your liberal aunt about international geopolitics, Putin is the greatest living threat on the planet, and the United States is a victim of badly led countries. We don't hate the people, but all these countries have terrible leadership, except for us. We have great leadership. This is why. All of the news about international geopolitics is designed to manufacture consent for the agenda that Wesley Clark revealed, that Sachs mentions there. They planned on taking out these 7 countries. That was the agenda. Syria was the next to last on the list. And now, why do you think you're hearing so much about Iran? And that is not something you're just hearing from Harris, the Biden-Harris administration. That's not something you're just hearing from the Democrats. If anything, Trump and his crew were screaming that even more loudly than they were.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So when Sachs says 6 of 7 countries have fallen, he's referring to Sudan, Somalia, Libya, Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Those are the 6 that have now fallen. Iran is the last one. And it's the hardest one, which is why it's the last one. Now, in the video that we played a couple weeks ago, there's the old footage from 2007 where Wesley Clark says the plan was to topple 7 countries in 5 years. That's just imperial arrogance. That's them thinking that, oh, we'll do this very quickly. Like, I actually do think Rumsfeld thought that the Iraq war would probably be wrapped in 6 weeks.
Those
6
Arabs,
days, 6
they don't
weeks.
know which end of the rifle is up.
Exactly. 6 days, 6 weeks, maybe 6 months. I do think he actually thought that, because I think they had plans to get all of this done within Bush's 2 terms. And that timeline is obviously extended, but the plan remains the same no matter who the president is, as he said. You know, this is now what you got. You got Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, now Trump one more time. So 4 different presidents presiding over essentially a continuation of the same foreign policy, more or less. It has sped up, it has slowed down. Now you're seeing it at an extremely accelerated pace in the lame duck session before Trump comes in, because I think there's a fear he might slow it down again. Just like he didn't get them the Ukraine war as quickly as they wanted. But now what we're seeing is, notice Russia's not on that list for regime change. Syria is. And so when Syria fell, it became this real sort of light bulb moment for many of us who thought, maybe that was a big payoff of the Ukraine war all along. It wasn't even about Ukraine. It wasn't about Russia. It was about Syria. It was about exhausting Russia. It was about distracting Russia so they could topple Syria, because that's the second to last one on the list. And now there's only one left.
Well, according to Sachs, in another part of that interview, he says Russia still has its bases there. And that Russia, in his assessment, strategically, because of what's going on in Ukraine, felt it's not worth redirecting troops there right now, but they're not done there. They have not. They just moved back to their bases as this happened, and maybe planning to engage later. He also, this is what got the Israelis really upset. He lays out what greater Israel is in this. And for anyone who's not familiar, it's really from the river. It's the real from the river to the sea.
Right.
It's their vision of what the boundaries of Israel should be. And it would take in the Golan Heights. It would take in Gaza. It would take in part of what's currently Egypt. It would take in Lebanon, literally from the river to the sea. And he says that what U.S. foreign policy has been defined by over the last 30 years has been Netanyahu's Greater Israel plan. And that knocking out these 7 countries is really about taking out countries that support Palestine. Because Netanyahu, from the beginning, never planned on allowing a Palestinian state, which meant you have to take out every country that's going to support a Palestinian state directly. So one person who watched this interview...
Saddam Hussein did. Sorry, he did. Yeah.
Saddam Hussein was given the key to Detroit in 1980.
Oh, I did see that.
He was given the key to the city. Yes. Back when he was our proxy. So one person who found the interview really interesting was Elon Musk, with his typical Rorschach-esque response to tweets. Very interesting interview. I honestly hope he thinks so. I hope that maybe he'll burn his Netanyahu knee pads now and say something about the fact that the United States is Israel's bitch. You want to really put America first. You know what I'd find very interesting? Elon or Vivek saying a word about the Israel portion of this interview. That would be very interesting to me. We shall see. I'm not holding my breath.
Nor am I.
And here is the Israeli Minister of Diaspora Affairs reacting to this. Congratulations to Tucker Carlson for becoming the leading platform for fringe Holocaust deniers, conspiracy theorists, and blood libel enthusiasts who oppose the state of Israel. Well, I didn't hear any of that in this interview. I heard a guy who has had very inside access to the halls of power for at least 30 years, calling out the influence that Israel has on our foreign policy. And if you have an alternative explanation for why we continue to fund this genocidal settler colonial state against the will of the American people, I'd like to hear what it is. And here's somebody calling this out. And this is where you're going to see the rifts in the MAGA coalition. But your boss's favorite tech bro is pushing it. That's off script. It's off script for Elon to be promoting this interview. That is the contradiction at the heart of the MAGA/MAGA movement. Here's some other reactions, which are kind of interesting. Clearly, you didn't watch the entire interview with Jeffrey Sachs. He was 90% correct. You might not like what he said, but he's not wrong. Now, this is pretty interesting. This is from somebody with an Israel flag.
Yeah, with the Israel
in
flag
their profile
emoji, yeah.
Another comment, seeing all you nuts lose your mind over this is itself a massive win, not to mention the spreading of valuable truth and Sachs's critical message of working together with other nations for peace, something the state of Israel and its neighbors never understand. Hear, hear. But here's a different take, probably more typical of Zionists. True, there is much work to be done in Hasbara. For anyone who doesn't know, that's their term for propaganda.
Yeah.
Explaining, yes, but it's propaganda.
Explain. Yeah.
Israel's very existence might not have been realized without the PR efforts of the 1940s, which proved that anti-Semitism and disinformation can be effectively countered. Yeah, that's probably more typical of people who follow this account. But yes, that I would highly recommend that interview. He covered a lot of ground. It was really fascinating. They're getting some where the libs are attacking it is they discuss Syria at one point. Sachs describes it as having been a functioning country in 2011, so people are coming at him. He had already killed thousands of his citizens by then. Now, I'm not expert enough in Syria to litigate that. What I can say about American foreign policy is if we gave a shit about that, he'd be the first who did something like that we gave a shit about.
Yeah,
we're perfectly happy to be allied to Saudi Arabia
Yeah.
that committed a genocide in Yemen. But this was an unfriendly dictator. So all of a sudden we've got an issue. And they didn't, Tucker said at one point, I never understood why I'm supposed to hate this guy. He mentions that he protected Christians in the country. But overall, his take was more the isolationist, like, I never understood why we're supposed to care about toppling this government, which I think most Americans would agree with.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not our society. It's not our country. And for you to still be parroting these lines about the atrocities of the Assad government, like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm not in a position to confirm or deny those accusations. I don't know the specifics of them. I'm sure some are true and some are not. That's usually the case. But in terms of like our interventions, I'm sorry, the verdict is in on this. Iraq, worse for our involvement. Libya, much worse for our involvement. Afghanistan, worse for our involvement. Like that's not an argument at this point. Like to make that, to still be making that argument is to have no knowledge whatsoever of pretty recent history. And they don't have knowledge of that. And what knowledge they have, they've just had deprogrammed out of their minds. That's why the libs sound the way they do. Because even when they learn something, they'll forget it as soon as they're told to.
Yes, it is. Yesterday we were at war with Eurasia.
Right.
Today we are allies with Eurasia.
Exactly.
And we've always been allies with Eurasia.
Exactly. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick game break before our final segment of the day to shout out our supporters, our paid locals members, and members. Folks, we have some plans in the works for our patron materials this month, which we will announce on Sunday's show. But if you would like to join the party, please do so. Go to patreon.com/do dissidents. You can also join our Substack. We got to pick the movie. DoDissidents.substack.com, or you could join our locals, DoDissidents.locals.com. We have 1,200 of you fine folks watching on Rumble right now. If you're watching on Rumble, Locals is a part of Rumble. So that bright red join button underneath the video player takes you to our locals, where you can join the show for as little as $5 a month. You get 2 bonus patron streams per month. One call-in content stream where we do a version of this show exclusively for the patrons, and we take your phone calls. And then we have our movie club, which we do every month as well, which is interactive as well. You also get call-in access to our weekly Q&As. Once a week, we do a Q&A on Rumble after the main show. Patrons, Substackers, Locals members have call-in access to that. You also get special advance live stream access to our long-form pre-taped interviews. You also get access to our live events when we do them, be it Russ's Walking Tour or our live show back in June in the city. We're doing an arts festival in April. You guys will have live stream access to all of that when you become a member. So we do make the perks as good as we can. You also get your name up in lights here on the scroll, and you guys are the lifeblood and the backbone of this show. So if you got $5 a month and you want to give us a little Christmas present, throw it in the hat there. If you give us 3 or 4 super chats a show, give us 2 or 3 super chats a show and throw $5 in the pool here. It makes a huge difference. It is extremely important to the survival of this project. So thank you very much. That's DoDissidents.locals.com for everybody watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Rumble, it's super simple. Press of a button. Bright red join button right underneath the screen takes you right there. All right, Virtuoso. Hey, long time no see, Virtuoso. Good to see you again.
What up?
Thanks for the $10, Virtuoso. Virtuoso is one of our first patrons, one of our first members of the show, dating back a very long time. California voters rejected a ballot measure to increase minimum wage by a narrow margin. So bizarre, since that state is harboring a company that exploits its workers. Yeah, yep. Those are the nice liberal Californians, right? Lawrence McNeil, thanks to the $4.99. The State Department Christmas night out must be a hoot where they're only allowed to speak to each other in riddles. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Lawrence. John Trevina, thanks to the $4.99, says morbidly wealthy has a nice ring to it. Ha, good one. John Trevina, appreciate that very much. Let's see what we got over here on Rumble. Got some Rumble rants. Hillary Hinton says you can always get good coffee for cheap at Marshall's. Yeah, I've heard that. TJ Maxx, which won't help Russ in Harlem. There's probably a TJ Maxx in Harlem, isn't there? I'm sure there is.
I've never seen one.
Also, Phil Collins is a genius. There, I said it. Thanks, Hillary Hinton. Appreciate that.
Really?
You guys ever cross paths with Deborah Lusignan, same progressive? She was Jose Vega before Jose Vega. I never heard of her.
Oh, yeah? Mm-mm.
Yeah.
This is among our New Year's announcements. We're gonna be co-producing Jose's show.
That's right. That's going to be that's part of our project 2025.
Yeah.
Is to do a Rumble show with Jose at the hosting chair. Yes,
We'll
formalize
if we do
that
our
on
job
Sunday.
right. The libs are going to be just as upset about our project 2025
Yeah, right.
as the
yeah,
Heritage
exactly.
Foundation.
They'll be doing hit pieces on us in due
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Sparky, break it off in BlackRock. Make Ukraine Russia again. Thank you, Sparky. How dare you say that, Sparky? All right, we got our final segment of the day here, and this is one that we've been following here. So, folks, Lou, as we'll call him, Louis, has been charged. That's right. Now, New York prosecutors used a terrorism law in the charges against Luigi Mangione. Yes, that's right. So New York prosecutors...
Today I settle all family business.
Yeah, exactly. New York prosecutors are using a 9/11 era anti-terrorism law in their case against the man charged with gunning down United Healthcare CEO outside a Midtown Manhattan hotel. Luigi Mangione was indicted on charges of murder as an act of terrorism under a state law that allows for stiffer sentences when a killing is aimed at terrifying civilians or influencing government. If it sounds like an unusual application of a terrorism law, it's not the first time the statute has been applied to a case that wasn't about cross-border extremism or a plot to kill masses of people. Mangione is charged with first-degree and second-degree murder counts that specifically refer to a New York law that addresses terrorism. Essentially an add-on to existing criminal statutes, it said that an underlying offense constitutes a crime of terrorism if it's done with intent to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, influence the policy of a unit of government by intimidation or coercion, or affect the conduct of a unit of government by murder, assassination, or kidnapping. If a defendant is convicted, the crime of terrorism designation boosts the underlying offense to a more serious sentencing category. For example, an assault normally punishable by up to 25 years in prison would carry a potential life sentence. Now, of course, as they print out here, Mangione would face a possible life sentence if convicted. New York does not have the death penalty. The state's highest court threw out a capital punishment law in 2004. So he's being charged with murder. He's not going to get 25 years. He's going to get life in prison. Now, what this says here is that the statute calls for a longer sentence if you're convicted of terrorism, if that is attached to a crime that is not murder, that would not necessarily land you life in prison. Like, for example, if the FBI does a sting operation and frames you for trying to do something that you had no intention of doing that wouldn't result in loss of life, they will give you a higher minimum sentence if they attach this terrorism law to it. In this case, it does not affect the sentencing at all because you're going to get life in prison if you're convicted for murder anyway, which means this really isn't about him. This is about us. This is about keeping the public in line, because they are adding this terrorism charge because of the influence that the killing had on the public.
Right.
That's why they're doing it. So here's Alvin Bragg explaining this, which I'm waiting for Matt Walsh's tweet about how Alvin Bragg is charging him like this because he's a white man. You know, I mean, haven't seen it yet. Haven't seen it yet.
Frightening, well-planned, targeted murder that was intended to cause shock and attention and intimidation. It occurred in one of the most bustling parts of our city, threatening the safety of local residents and tourists alike, commuters and business people just starting out on their day.
Not at that time of the morning.
Let me say a bit more about the charges.
That's the thing. That's not true, as we'll get to later. It was very early in the morning. Yeah, none of that's true, which we have actually, don't take it from us, one of CNN's top legal people that they go to bring on actually says that in a minute.
They include one count of murder in the first degree as a killing in furtherance of terrorism, 2 counts of murder in the second degree, 1 charging that the killing was done as an act of terrorism, and the second pertaining to the fact that the killing was intentional. The maximum penalty possible for murder in the first degree and murder in the second degree as an act of terrorism is life without parole. The maximum penalty for murder in the second degree is 25 years to life.
Again, the sentencing is neither here nor there. He's going to get life in prison if he is convicted. Anyway, all right. So the way this is structured, it's kind of an Axios format. Where did this law come from? State lawmakers passed it in 2001, 6 days after the September 11th attack, saying the state needed legislation that is specifically designed to combat the evils of terrorism and that wasn't just for federal courts. Then State Senator Michael Balboni, who was among the law's leading proponents, recalls pointing out that many cases could come via state and local enforcement officers who far outnumbered federal agents in New York. Many other states passed similar laws around the same time, and Congress approved the Patriot Act. Okay, so here's the segment that I just referred to. There's a woman, I think her name is Susan Schneider. I forget her first name. I know that's her last name. She is sort of, one of the legal experts that CNN goes to. She is a defense attorney. And so we're going to see her take on this terrorism charge. We're going to see her explain why it's not likely to hold.
I really want to point out here, which is highly unusual, and it's my opinion that the Manhattan District Attorney's Office has a bit overreached in this indictment. They were originally going to go forward with a murder 2 charge against Luigi Mangione, which is just having the defendant having the intent to cause death of another human being and the defendant being the cause of that death. They've now gone forward and enlisted these terrorism component or this terrorism component to a murder one indictment, which means they presented evidence in front of the grand jury, which is a group of 24 people from the community, without a judge in place, just a district attorney and a group of 24 grand jurors who hear evidence. It is undoubted, or I believe that the DA presented that alleged manifesto to try to get this terrorism charge added on as murder one, but they're going to have a harder time proving that in court for one reason, and I'll make it fast. This victim was shot in the back of the head, not in the front of the head, on a quiet sidewalk early in the morning in the dark, and it doesn't appear from a defense attorney's perspective that this was intended to be a terroristic type of murder.
So one other thing I want to ask is just I want you to take a listen from moments ago. The Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Let's roll that tape.
One count of murder in the first degree is a killing in furtherance of terrorism. 2 counts of murder in the second degree. 1 charging that the killing was done as an act of terrorism, and the second pertaining to the fact that the killing was intentional.
So, Stacey, you think a defense attorney would disagree with that and with what Shimon laid out, that the prosecution will explain is that because he was targeted, Mr. Thompson, for being a CEO of a health insurance company, and this does appear to be politically motivated in a sense, but you disagree with those charges, or you think a defense attorney would take issue?
I think his defense attorney is going to definitely take issue at trial. They may even move to dismiss the top count of murder one, and that would be Karen Agnifilio, because arguing this was a terroristic act when he was on a quiet street in the dark shooting a victim in the back of the head and then intending to influence the whole world about the insurance industry was an unintended consequence of this murder. No one expected the social media outpouring, the disturbing social media outpouring from this act, and to have the district attorney and law enforcement from New York mention that there was a social media outcry in relation to a terroristic act is putting the cart before the horse. I mean, the murder happened first, the outcry was second, and totally unpredictable.
Okay, so I would disagree slightly with the fact that with the statement that it was unpredictable. I wouldn't say it was unpredictable, but I generally agree with what she's saying, that you are basically taking the reaction to the crime and therefore assigning a certain implication to the crime itself based on the public reaction to it. And can you prove that that was foreseeable? Can you attach it to that crime in that way? So what this really is, this is an attempt to control the conversation that has gotten out of hand. Mm-hmm. And as someone who makes their living on social media, I can tell you that when someone is declared a terrorist, there are specific rules as to what you can and cannot say about them on platforms like Facebook, like YouTube, where the conversation is happening, which means we now have to be much more careful about how we talk about this. Otherwise, they can put us out of business. I was watching Jordan Sheridan's segment about this the other day. Every 3 minutes, he's putting in the disclaimer, we do not condone vigilante violence. So we have to put that disclaimer in as well. We have to say now, we do not condone vigilante violence, just like Jimmy has to say stuff about the vaccine when he talks about this. Like, you have to put certain disclaimers now when you talk about this, because now that this is elevated to a case of terrorism, there are stricter rules on the platforms where the conversation is happening. They want to censor the conversation. They want to stifle the conversation. That is why they are charging him with this, because they want to control what we are allowed to say about it. And they want to be able to punish people who say the wrong thing about it. And that is what this is about. This is about punishing the public for reacting badly in their mind to this event, this tragic event, which we do not condone. See how this is going to work now? And it sounds funny. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. They can fuck you up if you say the wrong thing about this now that there's a terrorism charge.
Yes, there are rumors that he might get a pardon from Trump, and if RFK goes down, take over Health and Human
Health and Human
Services,
Services, right?
which
Right.
I would fully support. Yeah, obviously this is an elite class terrified of the reaction to this. It was one of the clearest examples yet of something a lot of people have been warning about for a very long time. I remember reading an article. It was written not very long before the pandemic, which makes it even more prophetic, where the person said, you cannot have this level of inequality without it destabilizing society. It always does. If you look at any other example of a country that had this kind of grotesque wealth inequality, it causes social instability. And the writer said, something's going to happen. There's going to be a war. There's going to be something unpredictable that really accelerates it. And this was, as I said, it was written not long before the pandemic. So that was a very, very I thought it was insightful at the time, even more so in hindsight. This was one of the first open examples of a return to kind of urban guerrilla actions. Obviously, he acted alone. He's not part of a group like the Weather Underground or the Symbionese Liberation Army.
Right.
I think you will see a return of groups like that. And it goes back to the old JFK saw. People who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. Are we going to have a real revolution? Honestly, we always want to tell you what we really think here. I think this country's more likely to have a fascist revolution than a socialist one. I would like to tell you otherwise, but that's what I think. The system as it exists is not sustainable. It's going to tip into something else. And as it does, you're going to see a lot of incidents like this.
Well, that's kind of what Jordan was saying too. Why he said, he put a little meat on the bones of why he doesn't condone it, because he says the response to it will be so fascistic that, yeah, what you're going to have is a civil war that ends up in a fascist revolution if there is one. That's why the more productive way to do things is obviously through building mass movements and through civil disobedience, which we condone because that is safe and legal to condone, right? And this is how the conversation gets policed. This is how your First Amendment gets undermined. This is what they wrote the Patriot Act for. They wrote the Patriot Act to undermine the First Amendment post 9/11. And they used the Patriot Act to do that. This is a Patriot Act era law. This law was passed 6 days after 9/11 that they're now pulling out of the shelf when they need it, just like they will to anyone whenever they need it. And so you could see that coming. And part of what I'm talking about is a poll like this. Now, we give the boomers a lot of grief on this show, and I want to give the boomers credit because this is one issue where they're, of course, absolutely right. Net favorability of Luigi Mangione. Among 18 to 25-year-olds, Luigi Mangione has a plus 9% favorability rating. Horrible, horrible. 30 to 44, it's about tied. 45 to 64, he has a negative 35% favorability rating.
What's going on with my people?
And yeah, well, and the boomers, as you can see, just absolutely correct on this yet again. Absolutely right about this. And this led Eric Adams to question, hey, what's with the young people?
The shooter, Ivy League, grew up in an affluent household. His manifesto clearly is showing some signs of hating. Our children are being radicalized. I said this over and over.
He's
again.
a hater.
Everybody's like, what are you talking about, Eric? Our children are being radicalized to hate the America, to hate the country that put them where they are. This.
Okay, that says it right there. To hate the country that put them where they are. Yeah, they are where they are. That's why they hate the country. The country that put them where they are, where they can't afford to buy a car, they can't afford to rent an apartment, they can't afford to have children. They'll never afford to buy a house. The median age now for first-time home buyers is up to 56.
Yep.
You don't even get to buy a house until you're almost out of the workforce. You can't even buy a house until you're almost out of the workforce now. So this is where they are. This is where they are. That's why they hate the country, because the country has put them where they are.
Crippling student loan debt.
Crippling student loan debt. Yeah, exactly. That explains it. This country's put them where they are, and they're so ungrateful. Yeah, where are they? Where are they? You answered your own question.
No health care.
That's right.
I said, hey, because I've thought about going upstate, buying a house. My biggest hesitation, honestly, is healthcare. Hey, what's the point of building anything in a country where they'll take all your shit if you get sick?
Yep.
What's the point of it?
Yep. That's right.
This person had all that one wants to have, but he hated everything to the point of shooting someone. And we better deal with the radicalization of our young people. And, people could, they could complain that I'm saying it, but I'm seeing it. I'm seeing our bench is hating the team. And we better start acknowledging and focusing on that. And so having dance parties, celebrating the death of someone, I don't support that.
You should. What you should take more issue with is the fact that your city and your party, and more broadly speaking, your country, has put young people in a position where a reaction to an event like this was very predictable, contrary to what the CNN lawyer said. That's the only piece of that I think she got wrong, is that I could have seen this coming. Maybe not in the volume, but I could certainly see the reaction to this coming a mile away, and that is because of the desperation that people feel after years and years of political failure. And it is almost entirely the Democrats who I blame for this, not because the Republicans are better than the Democrats, but because Republicans don't pretend to be better than the Democrats. The Republicans never wanted to fix our healthcare system. The Democrats acted like they did, and they didn't. Barack Obama ran on a public option. Obamacare ended up being a Heritage Foundation, Romney Care healthcare plan. And then when the guy ran who was going to take it to the next level, they said, no, this Heritage Foundation healthcare plan is the final stage of healthcare reform in this country, and we can only strengthen it, whatever that means. They still haven't strengthened it. I don't know what they mean by strengthened it. It's the same policy that it was in 2009. That has led people to nihilism. Yes.
Biden ran saying he would veto Medicare for all if it reached his desk.
Right. So, again, as an observation, not as an endorsement, what is the JFK quote? When you make peaceful revolution impossible, you make violent revolution inevitable. This is the result of political failure. And it is mostly political failure at the hands of the Democratic Party. And you're the mayor of New York City. You're the mayor of New York City, man. This is one of the most unequal cities in the country. I think San Francisco, LA, and New York, they trade places.
Credit card debt in America.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. New York, LA, San Francisco, they kind of trade places, I guess, as number one. But those are the top three. And this is what happens when politics fails. And rather than chide young people for having this reaction, why don't you ask yourself why? Ask yourself why. It's as simple as that. These are questions that the political class simply will not ask themselves. And part of this terrorism charge is to suppress conversation. Because once you go there, now you have the Patriot Act laws that you can pull out of the deck when you need them. Now social media companies have specific rules set up when you're talking about terrorism, right? As opposed to just a crime of an ordinary nature. And so that's what this is about. That's what this is about. They are going. Look, this is really a free speech issue at this point, because that's what this charge is really about. This charge is about controlling the conversation. It's not about him. He's getting the same jail time, terrorism charge or no terrorism charge. That's irrelevant. This is about suppressing speech. This is about making the First Amendment irrelevant, which there has been a systemic effort to do really since the passage of the First Amendment. When we covered the Kingston rally, Judge Napolitano went on a great lecture about how the government always they regretted signing the First Amendment from day one. After they signed it, they probably wish they could cross it out and go back. They've been undermining it for centuries, but post 9/11 you've seen an accelerated push to nullify the First Amendment, and the monopolization of big tech is a big part of that, and this is a big part of that as well.
Yeah, for anyone who missed it when I recommended it in the past, Days of Rage, Brian Burrow. Apparently, Mark Andreessen is a fan of this book. This is why he's buying so much home security. He mentioned it on Chris Williams' show. I was surprised to find. That is the most comprehensive book about the history, really unknown, I believe, suppressed history of guerrilla urban movements in the 70s. There were over 2,000 domestic terrorist bombings a year in the early 70s. It's something that is just the reason you can't buy dynamite at the hardware store is because of this period. You used to be able to just buy dynamite at a hardware store. They passed the law specifically because of all these domestic bombings. Yes, this has probably scared the shit out of the elite classes more than anything we've seen in many, many years, to have it revealed in such stark terms how much the people, left, right, center, everybody really hates them. And just as October 7th was a masks off moment for podcasters and commentators and so-called thought leaders, this has been another mask off moment. All of a sudden, all of these anti-establishment people, the Barry Weisses, the Matt Walshes, all of a sudden, they're in lockstep with the New York Times op-ed page.
Yep.
They hate the New York Times so much. Oh, those establishment elites. All of a sudden, as soon as this happened, they sound just like CNN. I hope their fans, who very often we do a segment like we did on Elon today, Elon, who will always drop into the comments to tell you sound just like CNN. I hope they're saying that to those people. I hope they're pointing out to Ben Shapiro and all these other supposed rescue the Republic radicals and fighters against power. I hope they're pointing out to them that they sound just like the New York Times and CNN, and will maybe consider the idea that anti-woke is just the other side of woke, and they both lead you right back to the same place, supporting CEOs, insurance companies, and Israel.
That's right. Oh, the earth is round now? You sound just like CNN.
Yeah.
Call a bookend on the show, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we're going to read the rest of our chats, and then we're going to get out of here. Brad Gilbert, thanks for the $2. Gen X MAGA calls out MAGA grift for APAC fact influencers. Thank you, Brad Gilbert. MCFC, thanks to the $9.99. In the book, The Bonfire of the Vanities, author Tom Wolfe quotes New York State Chief Judge Saul Wachtler, who said that a grand jury would indict a ham sandwich if that's what you wanted. That's right.
That's a great book.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of the that's one of the books that apparently the movie was terrible. I never saw the movie, but apparently that movie got really panned. Yeah, that got really panned.
Tom Wolfe was just great. I never read anything by Tom Wolfe that wasn't really smart.
Yeah. Yeah,
he's very gripping, very engaging.
I'm not surprised Elon and Trump haven't heard the stuff Sachs told Tucker before. Financially successful people have focus, but focus doubles as blinders. Ask Russell about blinders. What do you mean, ask Russell about blinders? What does that mean?
Because I used to drive a horse.
Oh, about blind. Oh, yeah. Oh, there you go. I didn't even get that. Luigi Mangione, the modern day Guy Fawkes. Is there a Luigi Mangione day or the future? Are we doomed to dystopia? Well, how dare you for asking that, Sparky? That's all we could say to that now that these charges have been brought. Yes. How dare again, out of line. Sparky's out of line today. Sparky's out of order, talking about Ukraine and Russia. The boomers likely have a favorable view of implementing the Squid Game for Americans drowning in medical debt. What a great way to pull yourself up by bootstraps in a new creative way. Thank you. Nina Kant says, I like this idea. I'm doing a satire Clarissa Ward on the ground short video. We need a laugh. That is a good idea. I like that idea, you know. I do like that idea. Hey, maybe that's a skit we could do for our arts festival, a Syrian prison liberation sketch.
I really want to do Tucker being raped by Alex Jones disguised as the devil.
I'm sure Rumble will love that. We'll pitch that to them. Yeah, we're going to do an exclusive. Yeah.
You get over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I spotted you all the way from the ninth circle of hell. You're cute.
You're cute. Let's see here. Tell me government isn't the mob without saying it. One CEO murdered, killer caught in a week. Hundreds of whistleblowers, 0 killers caught. Damn America. Well said.
Yep.
Look, that's the other part of this piece. That's the other part of this piece, too. I'm not saying he didn't do it. I can't say that yet. It seems like there's a lot of evidence that he did. There's also some evidence of fuckery here. How a guy with the wherewithal to execute a crime like that and escape an island that's with cameras all around it, how that guy could have the manifesto and the murder weapon on him, a week later? I'm sorry, that's fishy. Again, I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm just saying, like, that is very strange. It is very strange that he didn't discard the murder weapon and that he still had the literature on him. That is really, really strange.
And he was definitely Maha adjacent. How does he wind up in a McDonald's?
That's true. Yeah, doesn't he know about all the seed oils there?
Yeah,
exactly.
That doesn't add up.
Yeah, that doesn't add up. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. You're right about that. I didn't even think of that. Love you guys and appreciate all the work you do. Thank you, Jones. Hope everyone has a terrific Thursday. Thank you very much. All right, Ken Texican, blinders, also so-called blinkers. There you go. Ernest Dowson says, due dissidents, along with all other podcasts in this lane, should call for a demo on Inauguration Day that wishes Trump well while asking him to consider Medicare for all, etc.
I plan on going down there. We got to talk about this. We're gonna get our shit together to explain what we're raising funds for on Sunday. First up will be for us to go down and live stream the inauguration.
Yeah, we're publishing Project 2025 on Sunday.
Yes, that is the day.
That's
Mark
the day
your calendars.
We're
folks.
unveiling it. Get ready for the live meltdown.
Yes.
Yes.
The soft open.
The soft open, yes. Hate to be pessimistic, but if Musk, Trump at all changed their stance on Israel after watching Tucker and Sachs, AIPAC-controlled Congress would impeach and convict Trump. Yeah, well, that's...
they just, he'd slip on a banana peel, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, right, exactly. And they wouldn't find the guy who did it.
The first ones were just a warning.
Yeah, and they wouldn't find the guy who did it so easily. Wouldn't show up in a McDonald's 5 days later with the
and then suddenly they would produce pictures of a bearded Iranian.
Yeah,
on
right.
The mall. Yeah.
Exactly right. Mike Keaton will play Alex Jones in the Hallmark special. There you go. I think Russell does a better Alex Jones than me, actually. Russell does a very, very good Alex Jones because not only does he have the voice down, he has the mania and the pace of it down. The enthusiasm for every word. Alex Jones is very enthusiastic about every word that he says. There's no wasted words. Exactly. So I would cast Russell in that role, but I appreciate it though. Ken Texican, pretty popular bar back in the day around Churchill Downs called Blinkers. A lot of nice Phillies there back in the day. Beautiful. Thanks, Ken Texican. For the laugh about Tucker and Alex, a Kentucky woman. Thank you. Glad you enjoyed that. Appreciate that very much. Hey, folks, we appreciate you very much. This was a long one for a morning show, but a fun one as always. Thank you very, very much for being here. We appreciate you all. We will see you tomorrow. I'll be stopping in on the Jose's holiday party. And then we got to have our own patron holiday party. That's going to be like a supporter stream. We'll have to do that next week sometime. We'll figure out a time. And then we'll do the movie night over the holiday break as well. But we thank you guys very much for being here. Appreciate you all. Please hit that like button on the way out. Please hit that follow button on Rumble. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube and make sure that you stay in touch with us. We will see you back here on this channel Sunday night, December 22nd at 7 p.m. for our flagship Sunday evening broadcast. Until then, thanks for waking up with us this morning. Be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.